The morning sun was bright and soft, painting the sky in shades of gold. The church bells rang slowly, their echo spreading across the small town. Inside the large wedding hall, everything looked perfect. White flowers hung from the ceiling. Soft music played and guests filled the rows, smiling and whispering with excitement. Everyone looked happy. Everyone except 12-year-old Ethan. He sat quietly in the second row, wearing a small black suit that looked a little too big for him. His brown hair fell over his forehead, and his small hands kept fidgeting. He stared at his father, Robert, who stood proudly near the altar. Robert looked handsome in his gray suit, his face glowing with joy as he looked at his beautiful bride. Clara wore a long white gown, her hair shining under the lights, her lips curved into a soft smile. To everyone else, she looked like the perfect woman, elegant, kind, loving. But Ethan's eyes didn't see that smile as sweet. He saw something else behind it, something dark. His fingers trembled. He knew something no one else did. The weight on a child's heart. The guests whispered about how lucky Robert was. "Such a beautiful couple," an old lady said. "Yes, Clara is an angel," another replied. Ethan lowered his head. Angel. He wished they knew the truth. He tried to breathe slowly, but his chest felt tight. The sound of laughter, music, and clapping made him feel sick. He wanted to scream to stop this wedding, but who would listen to a child? Even his father didn't believe him. Robert had raised Ethan alone since his mother passed away 5 years ago. Life had been quiet but peaceful, until Clara came. She came like a bright light into Robert's life, always smiling, always helping. She cooked dinner, laughed at Robert's jokes, and told Ethan bedtime stories. Everyone liked her instantly, but Ethan never felt right around her. Sometimes she looked at him in a strange way, like she didn't want him there. The smile that hid the truth as the priest prepared the ceremony. Clara turned her head slightly and smiled at Ethan. Her eyes were calm, but cold, the kind of cold that didn't belong in a church. Ethan froze. It wasn't a kind smile. It was a warning. He looked down quickly, pretending to fix his shoes. His small heart pounded. The night before he had seen something that wouldn't leave his mind. A letter. He wasn't supposed to find it. He had been looking for his missing toy in Clara's room when he saw a piece of paper sticking out from her bag. He pulled it out. The paper had words that burned into his mind. "Once you get the signature, it's done. We'll move the money quietly. No one must know." There was a name signed below, a man's name Ethan didn't recognize. He had hidden the letter in his pocket, but when he went to show it to his father, it was gone. Maybe Clara took it back, or maybe someone else had seen him. He didn't know. All he knew now was Clara was not who she seemed. A heart that wouldn't listen. Ethan remembered last night clearly. He had tried to warn his father. He stood at the bedroom door while Robert fixed his tie. "Dad, I need to tell you something," Ethan had said, his voice shaking. Robert smiled at him through the mirror. "What is it, champ? You nervous about the wedding?" "No. It's about Clara, I found." Robert turned around and placed a gentle hand on Ethan's shoulder. "Ethan, listen. I know you miss your mom, and I know this is hard for you. But Clara's a good woman. She cares about both of us." "But Dad," Robert, cut him off with a small laugh. "No buts. You'll see. She'll make us a happy family again." Ethan felt his throat close. Robert didn't believe him. His eyes were full of love, blind love. And Clara, standing at the door, watching silently, had smiled. That same cold smile. The wedding begins now. Back in the hall, the music grew louder. The priest opened his book and began to speak. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." Ethan's palms were sweating. He watched Clara's hand slowly slide into his father's. She looked perfect. Every movement graceful, every glance soft. But Ethan's stomach twisted. He could still hear her voice from last night. He had woken up late at night to drink water. Passing Clara's room, he heard her whispering on the phone. "I told you, after the wedding, everything will be settled. He trusts me completely. Yes, I'll get the papers signed tomorrow. You'll get your share." Then laughter, soft, dangerous. cold. Ethan froze outside her door, his small body shaking. He wanted to record it, but his phone battery was dead. By morning, she acted like nothing happened, and now she stood beside his father, ready to become his wife. The guest's joy, his silence, the crowd clapped when Clara and Robert held hands. Cameras flashed. The pianist played a slow tune. Ethan's eyes moved from the smiling guests to the shining ring in Clara's hand. It sparkled too bright, almost mocking him. A woman sitting beside Ethan whispered, "You must be so happy, dear. Your new mom is beautiful." Ethan forced a small smile, but said nothing. Inside, he was screaming, "She's not my mom. She's a liar." But no sound came out. A whisper and a warning as Clara passed by the front row to take her bouquet. She leaned close to Ethan just for a second and whispered something only he could hear. "Stay quiet, little boy, or I'll make sure you regret it." His whole body went cold. His breath stopped. She pulled away, still smiling at the guests as if nothing happened. Ethan blinked, unsure if he heard her right, but the look in her eyes told him it was real. She wasn't joking. She was threatening him right in front of everyone. The weight of fear, the priest continued. "Do you, Robert? Take this woman." Ethan couldn't listen anymore. His ears buzzed. His mind was full of images. The letter, the phone call, Clara's whisper. He wanted to run to the front, shout, "Stop everything!" But what would people say? He was just a child. They'd call him jealous or crazy. He looked at his father's face, full of love, full of trust, and his heart ached. He doesn't see it. He doesn't see her mask. Ethan's small fingers clenched into fists. His eyes filled with tears. He had never felt so alone. The flash of the past, suddenly, a memory flashed his mother's voice, gentle and soft. "Ethan, always trust your heart, even if others don't." He blinked the tears away. Maybe no one would believe him, but he had to find a way. He couldn't let his father be destroyed. He looked around the hall. Maybe he could see that man from the letter. Maybe the man was here, hiding among the guests. His eyes searched every face. And then he saw him in the last row, near the exit, sat a man in a dark jacket. He was not clapping, not smiling, just watching Clara closely. Their eyes met for a second, and Clara froze. Her smile faded for half a heartbeat, then quickly returned. Ethan noticed it. So did the man. The moment before disaster, the ceremony continued. The priest turned to Clara. "And do you, Clara? Take this man." Clara looked at Robert lovingly. "I do," she said softly. The guests clapped again. Ethan felt his heart sink. It was almost over. She was about to win. Then he saw her glance toward the man in the dark jacket, just for a second, and slightly nod. That small nod burned in Ethan's mind. It meant something. It meant she was signaling him. Something was about to happen. The storm inside, the fiend's breathing quickened. His vision blurred. He wanted to stand up. He wanted to shout, "Stop! She's lying." But fear tied him down. He felt a hand touch his shoulder. It was his aunt, sitting beside him. "Ethan, are you okay, dear? You look pale." He nodded weakly. "Just not feeling good," he whispered. His aunt smiled kindly and looked back toward the ceremony. Ethan's eyes stayed on Clara. He watched every move, every fake smile, every blink. He felt anger, fear, and confusion fighting inside him. He was only 12, but at that moment, he felt older because he carried a truth no adult wanted to hear. The music fades. The music slowed as the couple prepared to exchange rings. Robert reached into his pocket, but the ring box wasn't there. He frowned slightly. Clara laughed lightly. "Oh, maybe you dropped it earlier, dear," she said sweetly. "No worries." But Ethan saw her left hand. She had something shiny between her fingers, something small. Was that the ring? Before he could say anything, she smoothly slid it onto her own finger and smiled. The guests clapped again, not noticing the switch. Ethan's eyes widened. Why did she have the ring? His heartbeat roared in his ears. The fire in his eyes, he couldn't sit still anymore. His chair creaked as he stood halfway. People looked at him for a second, then turned back to the couple. Clara noticed. Her smile faltered. For the first time, Ethan saw fear in her eyes, and that gave him courage. He took a deep breath. His lips trembled. His fists clenched. He whispered to himself, "I won't let you hurt him." The priest raised his hand. "If anyone has a reason why this couple should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever. Hold your peace." Ethan's breath caught. His heart felt like it would explode. He looked at his father, then at Clara, then at the man in the back row. He knew this was his only chance. The final glance, Clara turned her head slowly and met Ethan's eyes again. Her lips moved without sound. "Don't." Her eyes were sharp, threatening, desperate. But Ethan didn't look away this time. He stared right back at her. The church was silent. Even the music stopped. The air felt heavy as if time had frozen. Ethan's hand shook, his throat dry. He could feel everyone's eyes on him, waiting, wondering. He opened his mouth to speak. "Stop the wedding." The sound cut through the church like glass breaking. For a few heart-stopping seconds, nobody moved. The soft music ended mid-note, the pianist's fingers frozen above the keys. A camera dropped to the floor with a dull thud. Dozens of eyes turned toward the small figure standing in the second row. Ethan's face was pale, but his voice was firm. His tiny hands clenched at his sides. Robert blinked, stunned. "Ethan, what are you doing?" His voice was gentle, confused, almost pleading. Clara's smile disappeared. The color drained from her cheeks, though she tried to laugh. "Oh, sweetheart, you're just nervous, aren't you?" she said softly, her tone sugary and sharp at the same time. But Ethan shook his head. "Dad, please. She's lying." A wave of murmurs spread through the crowd. People turned, whispering, glancing between father and son. Phones lifted to record. The priest closed his book, uncertain whether to continue or stop the ceremony. Robert stepped forward. "Ethan, come here, son. Let's talk about this later." Ethan didn't move. His knees trembled, yet his voice didn't break. "No, Dad, not later." "She's not who you think she is," Claire gasped softly, placing a hand over her chest. "Robert, he's just scared. He needs help." Robert hesitated. For the first time that morning, doubt flickered in his eyes. Ethan saw it, and that gave him courage. He opened his mouth to explain, to tell everyone about the letter he'd found. But before he could speak, Clara turned toward the guests and forced a shaky laugh. "Children, she said lightly. "They get frightened when big changes happen." Her tone was calm, but her eyes, those perfect blue eyes, shot Ethan a silent warning. "Don't you dare." Ethan's stomach tightened. He felt the same cold fear that had followed him since last night. The church blurred around him, voices fading. All he could hear was the pounding of his heart, and suddenly, the memory rushed back the night before, the dark hallway. The secret letter that started it all. Flashback, the night before it was late. The house was quiet except for the ticking clock in the living room. Ethan lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The thought of the wedding filled him with dread he couldn't explain. He turned on his side and looked at the small photo on his bedside table, his mother's smiling face. "I wish you were here," he whispered. A faint sound came from the hallway, Clara's voice, muffled but sharp. Ethan frowned. It was past midnight. His father had already gone to bed. He slipped out from under his blanket and padded softly to the door. The voices grew clearer. Clara was on the phone. "I told you. The papers will be signed after the ceremony," she whispered. Yes. He trusts me completely. Once I get his signature, you'll get your part. Don't call again tonight." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Paper's signature? He pressed his ear closer to the door. The floor creaked beneath his bare foot, and he froze. The voice on the other end was deep, angry. "You'd better not trick me, Clara. We're in this together." "I know what I'm doing," she hissed. "Tomorrow, it's done." A few seconds later, he heard the click of the phone ending and the sound of Clara's heels crossing the floor. Ethan ducked behind the stair rail as she walked past carrying a glass of wine. Her smile was gone. Her face looked hard, different. When she vanished into her room, Ethan waited until her door clicked shut. His mind raced. What papers? Who was that man? He needed to know. The search he-thon crept down the hallway toward Clara's room. The door wasn't locked. He pushed it open just a little. The smell of perfume and flowers filled the air. Her handbag lay open on the dressing table. Beside it sat a folder of wedding papers and a few envelopes. His heart pounded as he stepped inside. He didn't know what he was looking for, but something told him it was there. He glanced around nervously. Moonlight spilled through the curtain, casting long shadows. He pulled the handbag closer and started searching. Lipstick, keys, wallet. A folded piece of paper near the bottom. He opened it, froze. The handwriting was elegant, but the words made his stomach twist. Once the marriage certificate is signed, transfer the funds. He won't suspect a thing. The old fool is too blinded by love. Below it a signature, D. Mason. Ethan's mouth went dry. Transfer the funds, old fool. He didn't understand everything, but he knew one thing. Clara was planning something bad. He folded the paper quickly, shoving it into his pocket. Then he heard footsteps, the creak of the floorboards. Outside, Clara was coming back. He dropped the handbag and darted behind the long curtain just as the door opened. Through the thin fabric, he saw her silhouette in the moonlight. She walked to the table, glanced around, and frowned. Her hand went into the bag. A second later, she muttered, "Where is it?" Her tone was sharp, worried. Ethan's breath caught. She was looking for the letter. He pressed his hand over his mouth, willing himself not to make a sound. After a long moment, she sighed and poured herself more wine. "Maybe I left it in the car," she murmured, then walked out again. Ethan waited until he heard her footsteps fade, then slipped out from behind the curtain. He wanted to run straight to his father's room, but his legs felt weak. Would Dad even believe him? He tiptoed down the hallway and peeked into Robert's room. His father was asleep, the lamp still on, a smile on his face. On the bedside table lay the framed photo of him and Clara together. Ethan's chest hurt. He looked so happy. But he couldn't stay silent. The attempt to tell he stepped inside and shook his father's shoulder gently. "Dad, wake up." Robert stirred, blinking. "Ethan, what's wrong, buddy?" "Bad dream?" Ethan swallowed. "Dad, I need to tell you something. It's about Clara." Robert sat up, rubbing his eyes. "It's late, son. Tomorrow's the big day. It's important," Ethan insisted. "I found something. She's not what you think." Robert frowned, still half asleep. "A letter." "What are you talking about?" "She said something about money and a man. She's planning something." Robert sighed, the smile returning. "Ethan, I know you miss your mom. You're scared things will change. But Clara loves us, no, Dad?" Ethan reached into his pocket. The paper was gone. He froze. He checked the other pocket. Empty. Robert looked confused. "What are you looking for?" "It was here. I swear I had it." Panic filled his voice. "She must," Fobard. Robert put a hand on his shoulder. "Enough, Ethan. You're just nervous. Get some sleep, okay?" Tears burned behind Ethan's eyes. "You don't believe me?" Robert softened. "I believe you love me, son. That's enough for tonight." He kissed Ethan's forehead and turned off the lamp. "Tomorrow will be a happy day. You'll see." Ethan walked out silently, heartbreaking. He didn't see Clara standing at the end of the hallway, half hidden in shadow. She watched him go, her eyes cold, a faint smile on her lips. The threat the next morning. The house buzzed with wedding preparations. Florists, decorators, photographers. Clara floated around like a queen, giving orders, laughing, pretending nothing happened. Ethan kept his distance. His mind spun. How had the letter vanished? Had she taken it from his pocket while he slept? When he finally crossed paths with her in the hallway, she leaned down, her voice sweet. "You've been snooping, haven't you?" Ethan froze. She smiled wider. "Curious little boys should stay out of grown-ups' business." He swallowed hard. "I know what you're doing." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Do you?" She leaned closer, whispering so only he could hear. "If you say one word to your father, he'll never believe you. And I'll make sure he sends you away. Understand?" Ethan's throat tightened. He nodded silently. She straightened, patting his cheek as if nothing had happened. Good boy. That smile, the same one she wore at the wedding, haunted him all day. Returned to the present and the church. The flashback faded. Ethan blinked, back in the silent church, still standing, everyone staring. Robert's voice trembled. "Ethan, what truth are you talking about?" Ethan opened his mouth. "She's lying to you. I heard her last night. She's only here for your money." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "Money?" Another whispered, "Is this true?" Clara's eyes widened in perfect shock. "Robert, how could you let him say that?" Her voice cracked, a tear forming at the corner of her eye too perfectly placed. Robert looked between them, torn. "Ethan, that's a serious thing to say. I'm telling the truth." Ethan cried. "She called someone. She said once you sign the papers, it's done." Clara turned to the guests. "This is awful." The poor boy's confused. "He needs help." She looked at Robert with trembling lips. "He's hurting, Robert. Don't you see? He doesn't want to lose you." For a moment it worked. Robert's face softened toward her. Ethan saw it and felt despair. But then something changed. From the back of the church, a door creaked. The man in the dark jacket stepped inside. His eyes met Clara's. Her face went white. Ethan noticed it immediately. "Dad, look. That man, he's the one she talked to." The man stopped where he was, uncertain, as all eyes turned toward him. He shifted uncomfortably. Clara whispered harshly, "You shouldn't be here," but only Ethan heard. Robert frowned. "Clara, who is he?" She stammered. I don't know." "He's mistaken." The man's jaw tightened. "Mistaken? You said we'd settle everything after the wedding?" Gasps filled the room again. Robert's face drained of color. "Settle what?" he demanded. Clara's voice broke. "He's lying." Ethan stepped closer to his father. "That's the truth, Dad. That's the man from the phone." Robert stared at the stranger, then at Clara. "Clara, what's going on?" Clara took a shaky breath, searching for words. For an excuse, but none came. For a moment, silence ruled the church again. Then, in a low voice, Robert said, "I think this wedding is over." Clara's mask, Clara's hands shook. "Robert, please listen. He's trying to ruin us." Robert's eyes were cold now. "You lied to me? I did it for us." She cried. "You don't understand." Ethan felt a mix of fear and relief. He had finally spoken the truth, but the scene around him was chaos. Guests whispered, some already leaving. The priest quietly stepped aside. Robert turned to the stranger. "Who are you?" The man hesitated. "Daniel Mason. She promised me half." "Said you were rich?" A loud gasp. Cameras clicked again. Clara covered her face and started to sob, but the tears looked wrong too late. "Too forced," Robert whispered. "Get out. Both of you." Ethan reached for his father's hand. Robert looked down, eyes wet. For the first time, he realized his son had been right. Clara walked toward the door slowly, her steps echoing. Just before leaving, she stopped and looked back at Ethan. The smile returned small, chilling. "This isn't over," she murmured. "Too quiet for anyone else to hear?" Ethan shivered. Outside, police sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Someone had called. 911. Robert turned to his son and pulled him close. "I'm sorry I didn't believe you." Ethan buried his face in his father's shoulder. "I just didn't want you to get hurt," Robert nodded, holding him tight. But in the back of his mind, Ethan couldn't forget Clara's final words. This isn't over. Somewhere beyond the church walls. The woman who almost destroyed their lives was already planning her next move. The hall was frozen. Everyone's eyes darted from Ethan to Clara, then to Robert, who still stood beside his son, face pale and confused. The music had stopped, the guests had stopped breathing, and the echo of Ethan's shout still seemed to hang in the air. "Ethan," Robert finally said, voice trembling. "What are you talking about?" Ethan didn't answer right away. His chest was rising fast, and he looked as if he was gathering courage. He turned toward Clara, whose once perfect smile had vanished completely. Her hands clutched the bouquet, so tightly that the petals were being crushed between her fingers. Clara forced a shaky laugh. "Robert, he's just a child," she said. "He's probably nervous. Weddings can be confusing for kids." Ethan's eyes filled with tears, but they weren't of fear, they were of anger. "I'm not lying," he said. His small voice echoed in the silence. "I saw it. I know what you did." Murmurs rippled through the hall. A few guests gasped. Robert's mother, sitting in the front row, pressed her hand to her chest. Robert stepped forward, lowering himself to Ethan's level. "Saw what, son? What did she do?" Ethan's lips trembled. "The letter, the one she hid in her drawer." Clara's face turned white. "What letter?" She snapped quickly. "The one that said you're not who you say you are," Ethan whispered. Clara took a step back. "That's ridiculous. Robert, please, this is nonsense." Robert's eyes darted between them, unsure of what to believe. "Ethan, what letter are you talking about?" Ethan's hand shook as he remembered that night, the night before the wedding. Flashback. The night before the wedding, Ethan had been unable to sleep. The house was filled with laughter and music. The adults downstairs were celebrating the rehearsal dinner. He had gone to his room early, pretending to be tired. But inside, his mind was restless. He didn't like Clara. Not because she wasn't nice on the surface. She smiled often, spoke softly, and acted as though she cared. But sometimes, when she thought no one was watching, her smile faded into something cold. Something fake. He had noticed her whispering on the phone late at night. Once he'd even seen her crying quietly in the kitchen, holding a small, torn photograph. That night. He got out of bed, barefoot, and tiptoed down the hall toward Clara's study room. He wanted to find his old toy car, which he thought he'd left there the day before. But when he opened the door slightly, he froze. Clara was inside. She sat at her desk, under the warm light of a lamp. A letter lay open in front of her. She was reading it again and again, muttering to herself. Ethan hid behind the door. Her voice was low but sharp. "He can never find out. Not before the wedding," she whispered. "Once it's done, it's all mine." Ethan frowned. What was she talking about? Suddenly her phone buzzed. She picked it up quickly. "Yeah," she said in a low tone. "Tomorrow morning? As soon as the papers are signed, I'll transfer the money." No, he has no idea. The boy suspects nothing. Ethan's heart raced. The boy, she was talking about him. She ended the call and took a deep breath. Then she folded the letter and slid it into the drawer. Ethan could see the edge of the envelope as she closed it. When the lights went off and she left the room, Ethan waited until her footsteps disappeared. He walked to the desk. His hands were trembling as he opened the drawer. The letter was there, slightly wrinkled, with handwriting that didn't look like Clara's. It was from someone named Daniel. He began to read. "Clara, this is the last time I'm helping you. I don't want trouble. You promise that after you marry Robert, we'll get what we need and disappear. Don't drag me into your plan any further. I'm not risking prison for this." Ethan's eyes widened. He didn't understand everything. But he understood one thing clearly. Clara was hiding something big. He heard a sound from outside and quickly slipped the letter into his pocket. He didn't want to get caught. That night he couldn't sleep at all. He wanted to tell his father, but Robert had been so happy lately. Ethan didn't want to ruin it unless he was sure. But now, standing in the middle of the wedding hall, watching Clara's frightened face, he knew he had to speak. Back to the wedding hall, that letter wasn't a dream. "Dad," Ethan said, voice shaking but strong. It said she was planning something after the wedding. The guests were whispering louder now. Cameras were still rolling. Some were even recording on their phones. Robert looked completely lost. "Clara," he said slowly, "is there any truth to this?" Clara's lips quivered. "Of course not." "Robert, he's making this up?" "Why would I ever?" Before she could finish, a familiar voice came from the back of the hall. "Maybe because it's true." Everyone turned. A tall man in a dark suit stepped inside. His face was tense, eyes sharp. He looked directly at Clara. "Daniel." Clara whispered, color draining from her face. The hall filled with gasps again. Robert blinked. "Who is he?" Clara stumbled backward. I don't know him." Daniel's laugh was bitter. "Really? You don't know me? Then maybe you should tell everyone why you begged me to keep quiet about your past." Robert turned to Clara, confusion now turning into fear. "What is going on?" Clara's breath quickened. "He's lying. I swear, Robert, he's lying." But Daniel reached into his coat and pulled out another envelope. "I was going to stay quiet, Clara, but since the boy already told the truth..." He looked at Ethan. "You're a brave kid." Ethan's hands clutched his father's sleeve. "Dad, please, listen to him." Daniel placed the envelope on a nearby table. "Everything's inside. Proof of what she did. The fake name. The money transfers. The company she tried to steal from." Robert looked at Clara in disbelief. "Fake name? What company?" Clara's face was ashen. Her lips moved, but no sound came. "I'm calling the police," said Robert's mother sharply from the front row. "No." Clara shouted suddenly, her voice breaking. "Please, I can explain." Tears streamed down her face. "Yes, my name isn't really Clara Martin. It's Clara Hayes. I changed it years ago. But I'm not a criminal. I just needed a fresh start." Robert took a step closer. "A fresh start? By lying to me?" Clara's hand shook. "Robert, I love you. I was scared. You wouldn't have accepted me if you knew." Ethan's small voice broke the silence. "Then why did you say you'll take everything after the wedding?" Clara froze. Her gaze flicked to Daniel, then back to Robert. I didn't mean it like that." Daniel scoffed. "You meant every word, Clara. You wanted his company shares. You were going to run away with the money and start over. I have the messages to prove it." Robert's face turned pale. "My company?" The guests were whispering louder now, the ceremony completely forgotten. Clara looked around desperately. "Please, Robert, listen to me. I didn't plan to hurt you, I just needed help at first. But then I fell in love with you." "It's true." Robert's voice was cold now. "Security," he said quietly. "Take her out, Robert." She screamed as two guards approached. "You can't do this. I love you." She turned toward Ethan, tears streaming. "You don't understand what you've done, boy?" Ethan hid behind his father, frightened by the fury in her voice. As she was escorted out, the hall buzzed with shock. Cameras flashed. Guests whispered things like "unbelievable." And that poor man. Robert stood frozen, his hands shaking. He didn't move, even after Clara was gone. Ethan looked up at him, scared. Dad Robert blinked, as if waking from a nightmare. He turned and knelt in front of Ethan, tears finally filling his eyes. "You saved me, son," he whispered. "You saved my life." Ethan hugged him tightly. "I just wanted you to be happy, Dad." But as they embraced, Daniel quietly picked up his phone and stepped outside the hall. His expression had changed, serious, cautious. He dialed a number and spoke softly. "She's been exposed," he said, "but there's something else. The boy might have seen more than we thought." The voice on the other end was cold. "Then we have a bigger problem." Daniel hung up, his jaw tight. Outside, a car waited with tinted windows. Inside, a shadowy figure sat watching the hall's doors. Ethan had no idea that Clara wasn't the only one with secrets and that what came next would change everything again. The rain began to fall as the wedding guests slowly left the hall. What was supposed to be a day of celebration had turned into chaos and disbelief. Cameras were gone, laughter was gone, whispers and uneasy looks remained. Robert stood at the entrance, staring at the police car that was taking Clara away. The flashing red and blue lights painted his tired face in strange colors. He didn't move, didn't speak. It was as if the world had gone quiet around him. Beside him, Ethan held his father's hand tightly. He didn't understand everything that had happened, but he could feel his father's pain. For a 12-year-old, it was too much to see. "Dad," Ethan whispered softly, Are you okay?" Robert blinked slowly and looked down at his son. He tried to smile, but his lips barely moved. "I will be, son. I will be." But his voice didn't sound sure. They got into their car and drove home in silence. Outside, the rain grew heavier, making the road glisten under the streetlights. Back at home, the house was dark and quiet when they entered. Everything still looked the same. The flowers, the decorations, the wedding cake sitting untouched in the kitchen. Ethan looked around and felt an ache in his chest. It was supposed to be a happy day. Robert dropped his jacket on the sofa and sank into a chair. He rubbed his temples, trying to make sense of everything. He felt betrayed, humiliated, and heartbroken all at once. Ethan walked over slowly. "Dad, she fooled everyone." Robert looked at him and nodded faintly. "You were right to stop it, Ethan. You saved me from something terrible." He reached out and pulled Ethan into a hug. But deep inside, he couldn't stop thinking, how could I not see it? A small sound interrupted them, a knock at the door. Robert frowned. Who could it be now? He opened the door. A man stood there, wearing a dark coat and hat. His face was calm but unreadable. Rain dripped from his coat. "Mr. Robert Miller?" the man asked politely. "Yes, and you are?" "I'm Detective Harris," he said, showing his badge. "I'm handling the case involving Clara Hayes." Bart nodded and stepped aside. "Come in, Detective." Ethan watched the man closely as he entered. Something about his calmness made Ethan uncomfortable. The detective's questions, Detective Harris sat across from Robert, notebook in hand. He began asking about Clara, how long they'd known each other, when they got engaged, and what Robert knew about her past. Robert answered everything he could, though his voice often broke. Ethan sat beside him silently, his legs swinging nervously. Then the detective leaned forward. "You know a man named Daniel Reeves?" Robert hesitated. "Showed up today at the wedding. Said he had proof against Clara." Harris nodded slowly. "Yes, he was found dead an hour ago." Robert froze. "Dead?" Ethan's eyes widened. "What do you mean dead?" "Shot," the detective said quietly. "His body was found near the old bridge outside town. No witnesses yet." Robert's heart sank. He leaned back, trying to breathe. "You're saying someone killed him?" "We believe so," Harris said. "And whoever did it might be connected to Clara." Ethan's hand gripped his father's sleeve. "Dad, do you think she did it?" Robert didn't answer. He didn't know what to think anymore. The detective stood up. "If you remember anything unusual, call me immediately." He handed Robert a card and left. When the door closed, Robert turned to Ethan. "Go upstairs, son. Try to rest." Ethan wanted to argue, but his father's eyes looked too tired. So he nodded and went up quietly. The man in the car outside. In the darkness across the street, a black car sat parked under a tree. The windows were tinted and the engine was off. Inside, a man was watching the house through the rain-speckled windshield. It wasn't Detective Harris. He was the same man who had called Daniel earlier that day. Now his face was hard and expressionless. He picked up his phone and dialed. "She's in custody," he said quietly. "But the detective is asking questions too fast." A voice on the other end replied coldly, "Handle it. No more mistakes." The man looked at the house again. The boy was there. "He might know more than he realizes. To make sure he never talks," the voice ordered. The line went dead. The man leaned back in his seat, eyes narrowing. Through the window, he could see the light from Ethan's room on the second floor. He watched it for a long time, unmoving. Later that night, Ethan couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Clara's face, angry, tearful, desperate. Now Daniel was dead. He got up, went to the window, and looked outside. Rain still fell softly, glistening on the street. Then he froze. Across the road, he saw the shape of a car, dark and still. He could barely make out the outline of a man sitting inside. Ethan blinked. Was he imagining it? He turned on his small desk lamp and squinted. The man moved slightly, as if noticing Ethan's light. Then the car's headlights flashed once and went dark again. Ethan stepped back, heart pounding. He ran downstairs. "Dad," he called, "There's someone outside." Robert hurried to the window. But when he looked out, the street was empty. The car was gone. "There's no one there, son," he said softly. "You're just tired. Go back to bed." Ethan wanted to protest, but he stayed quiet. He knew what he saw. The next morning, Robert sat in the kitchen, staring at the news on TV. The reporter spoke about Daniel Reeves' death, calling it a mysterious murder linked to a controversial wedding scandal. Pictures of Clara and Robert flashed on the screen. Robert turned it off immediately. He rubbed his face, exhausted. Then his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You don't know the whole truth. Meet me at the old bridge at 8 p.m. tonight. Come alone." Robert's first thought was a trap, but something inside him said he needed to know more. What if there was something deeper, something even Clara hadn't told him? Ethan entered the room, rubbing his eyes. "Dad, what are you thinking about?" Robert forced a small smile. "Nothing, son. Just grown-up stuff." But Ethan noticed the phone in his hand. He could read the worry on his father's face. At the police station, meanwhile, Clara sat alone in the interrogation room. Her eyes were red from crying. She looked weak, but there was still a strange glint in her eyes. Detective Harris entered and sat across from her. "Clara Daniel Reeves is dead," he said plainly. She looked up sharply. "What?" "No, that's impossible. He was shot last night. Do you know anything about it?" Clara shook her head, tears welling up again. "No, I swear. I didn't do that. He helped me once, but I didn't kill him." Harris studied her for a long time. "If you didn't, then who did?" Clara looked away, her hands trembling. "I can't say," she whispered. "They'll kill me if I do." "Who, Clara? Who are you afraid of?" But she didn't answer. She only whispered one word under her breath, a name the detective barely caught: Samuel. Harris frowned. "Who's Samuel?" But Clara's eyes were distant now, as if she wasn't really there anymore. That evening, Robert parked his car near the old bridge. The air was cold, and the sky was gray. He looked around nervously. The place was empty. He checked his phone. 8:03 p.m. "Hello?" he called out. "Who sent the message?" There was silence. Then footsteps. A man stepped out from behind a tree. It was the same man from the black car. "Who are you?" Robert demanded. The man smiled faintly. "Someone who knows the truth about Clara and about you." "What are you talking about?" "She wasn't the only one lying, Robert," the man said. "There's a reason she targeted you, a reason connected to your past." Robert's breath caught. "My past?" The man took a step closer. "You think you're the victim here? You're not. You're a part of something years ago that destroyed lives. Clara was just the beginning." Robert shook his head. "You're insane." The man slipped a folded photo from his pocket and tossed it toward him. Robert picked it up and froze. It was a picture of himself, younger, standing beside a woman. He didn't recognize him beside her, a little girl who looked exactly like Clara. Robert's face went pale. "What is this?" The man smirked. "The truth." Then he turned and disappeared into the darkness, leaving Robert standing alone by the river, his hands shaking as rain began to fall again. Back at home, Ethan waited by the window, worried. The clock showed 9:30. His father wasn't back yet. He looked out at the empty street and whispered to himself, "Something bad is happening again," and he was right. Because that same black car had returned this time, parking right outside their gate. The rain hadn't stopped all night. Water dripped from the leaves and flowed down the narrow road near the old bridge. It was the same bridge where Daniel Reeves had been found dead, and now Robert stood frozen, holding that haunting photograph. He stared at it again under the weak glow of his car's headlights. There he was, younger, smiling faintly beside a woman he didn't know, and a little girl who looked exactly like Clara. His hands trembled. He whispered to himself, This can't be real." The wind blew harder, scattering raindrops across his face. The photo felt heavy, like it carried the weight of a buried truth that was finally clawing its way to the surface. "Who are you, Clara?" he muttered under his breath. "And what do you know about me that I don't?" At home, the waiting Sonny Fan sat on the couch hugging a blanket. The clock ticked louder with every minute that passed. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance. His father still wasn't home. Ethan had tried calling. but the signal was weak near the bridge. Now he just waited, staring out the window nervously. Suddenly, headlights. He rushed to the door and opened it. "Dad," he cried, as Robert finally walked in, drenched and pale. Robert didn't speak, simply walked to the dining table and placed the soaked photo down. Ethan frowned. "What's that?" Robert took a deep breath. "Something I can't explain yet, but it changes everything." He sank into a chair, running his fingers through his wet hair.
Ethan, I think Clara knew me long before we met.
Ethan blinked. "What do you mean?" Robert pointed at the photo. "Look, that's me, but I don't remember ever taking this picture." Ethan studied it, confused. "She looks like Clara when she was little," "Yes," Robert said softly. "Exactly." The visit before Robert could say anything more, a car pulled up outside. The sound of tires splashing through puddles echoed through the night. Robert looked through the window. It was Detective Harris. He opened the door before Harris could knock. "Detective, what are you doing here?" Harris stepped in quickly, shaking the rain from his coat. "I came because I think you're in danger," he said firmly. "Why, someone's been following you since the wedding." Robert stiffened. "You mean the man from the black car?" Harris raised an eyebrow. "So you saw him too?" Ethan looked between them nervously. "He was outside last night staring at our house." Harris nodded grimly. "That's Samuel Crane, former private investigator. He's dangerous. We think he's connected to Clara's network." "Network," Robert repeated, confused. The detective sighed. "Clara wasn't working alone. She was part of a group that targets wealthy men through emotional scams, but someone higher up was giving orders." "Samuel," Robert whispered. Harris nodded. "Yes, he was the real brain. But Clara went off plan. She fell in love with you." Robert froze. "She loved me." The detective's eyes softened. "That's what it looks like. She was supposed to take your money and vanish, but instead she stayed. That's why Daniel tried to expose her. He was warning you. Now he's dead." Ethan swallowed hard. "So Samuel killed him?" Harris looked down. "We don't have proof yet, but I think Clara knew too much." Robert leaned back, the weight of everything pressing down on him. "Then why this photo? What does it mean?" Harris frowned and picked it up carefully. He studied it for a moment. "That woman next to you, I've seen her face before." "Where?" Robert asked quickly. "In an old missing person file," the detective said slowly. "Her name was Margaret Hayes." Robert's eyes widened. "Hayes? It's like Clara Hayes?" "Yes," Harris confirmed. "She disappeared 25 years ago with her young daughter." Robert's breath caught. "So, you're saying Clara is Margaret's daughter?" Harris said. "And from this photo, it looks like you knew them once, maybe long ago." Robert's face turned pale. "But I don't remember. I've never—" He stopped mid-sentence. Suddenly, a flash of memory hit him. A rainy night, car crash. A crying child in the back seat, his hands started shaking. He whispered, "Oh my God." Buried memories. Harris leaned forward. "Robert, what do you remember?" Robert's voice trembled. "Years ago, when I was a delivery driver, there was an accident. I hit another car on a dark road. The woman didn't survive. But I pulled the child out before the fire spread." He closed his eyes tightly. "That woman, she was Margaret Hayes." Ethan covered his mouth in shock. "Dad." Robert's voice cracked. "I didn't know her name back then. Told the police what happened, but the child was taken to an orphanage. I never saw her again." He looked at the photo again at the little girl beside him. That was her. That was Clara. Harris nodded slowly. "Then she found you again years later, but instead of revenge, she got caught between hatred and love." Robert's chest felt heavy. "She wanted to make me suffer, but she couldn't go through with it." Ethan whispered, "She was that little girl you saved." Robert nodded weakly. "She became the woman who tried to destroy me." They escaped before they could say more. The window shattered with a loud crash. Ethan screamed as a bullet hit the wall beside them. Harris pulled out his gun instantly. "Get down." They dropped to the floor as another shot rang out. Through the broken window they saw movement, a dark figure near the trees. "Samuel," Harris shouted, firing a warning shot. The man ran into the shadows. Robert grabbed Ethan and pulled him behind the couch. "Stay down." Harris rushed to the door, but by the time he got outside, the shooter was gone. Only the sound of rain and distant thunder remained. He cursed under his breath. He's fast. Robert joined him, clutching Ethan tightly. He's not going to stop, is he? Harris shook his head. Not until he's silenced everyone who knows the truth. At the police station, Clara's desperation meanwhile, Clara sat alone in her cell. She hadn't slept all night. The sound of footsteps outside made her jump. Detective Harris entered, his coat still damp. Clara, he said quietly, someone tried to kill Robert and Ethan tonight. Her eyes widened in horror. What? No. Samuel, he wouldn't. He already did. Harris interrupted. Now he's after your fiancé and his son. Clara's lip trembled. Please, you have to protect them. Samuel doesn't care about anyone, just wants the money from the scam. Then help us catch him, Harris said firmly. Clara took a shaky breath. Won't stop unless I stop him myself. Harris frowned. That's not how it works. You're staying here where it's safe. But as soon as he turned to leave, Clara whispered, You don't know Samuel? He always finishes what he starts. That night the hidden tracked her back. At home, Robert and Ethan tried to sleep in the living room, afraid to be apart. But Robert couldn't rest. He sat by the window, watching the rain. Suddenly his phone buzzed. A message. A known number again. He shouldn't have told the detective. Now you'll pay the price. Robert stood up immediately. Ethan, wake up. What's wrong? Ethan murmured. We're leaving now. He grabbed his keys, but before they could reach the door, a small red light blinked near the window. Ethan pointed. Dad, what's that? Robert looked closer. It was a tiny tracker device stuck to the frame. He's been watching us the whole time, Robert whispered. He ripped it off and threw it into the sink. Then he turned to Ethan. Get in the car, son. We're going to the police station. But as they stepped outside, the black car was already waiting at the end of the street. Its headlights flashed once. Ethan's voice shook. Dad. Back inside, Robert yelled. They ran in, slammed the door, and locked it. Moments later, the car's engine roared and drove away. Robert's phone buzzed again. Another message. You can't hide from the past. The bridge will take the rest. The return to the bridge by dawn. Police cars surrounded the old bridge once more. Detective Harris stood beside Robert and Ethan, both pale and shaken. We got the messages, Robert said quietly. He wants me back here. Harris nodded. He's trying to finish what he started. He signaled to the officers to spread out and search the area. The mist hung low over the river, hiding everything beyond a few meters. Then, out of the fog, a voice called, Robert. Turned, and there was Clara, standing on the other side of the bridge. Her hands were cuffed, but an officer was escorting her. When she saw him, tears filled her eyes. Please, you have to leave. Here? Who? Harris demanded. Before anyone could answer, gunfire erupted. Bullets hit the railing. Officers ducked for cover. Harris shouted, It's Samuel. Everyone down. Through the smoke, a shadow moved near the rocks below. Robert, Clara screamed. He'll kill you like he killed my mother. Robert's eyes widened. Your mother? Samuel killed Margaret? Clara nodded, crying. He worked for her company back then. He wanted her money, and when she refused, he caused the crash. He didn't hit us by accident. He tampered with the brakes. Robert's knees went weak. Oh my God, all these years. Samuel's voice echoed from the shadows, mocking. You were the perfect scapegoat, Robert. And she never even knew. Harris shouted, Drop your weapon, Samuel. But Samuel fired again, hitting the bridge railing. Clara screamed and ran forward before anyone could stop her. Enough. You destroyed everything. Samuel aimed his gun at her. But before he could shoot, Robert leaped forward, tackling him. They struggled near the edge of the bridge, rain pouring down again. A single gunshot echoed, then silence. Aftermath. When the mist cleared, officers rushed forward. Samuel lay motionless, his gun beside him. Robert sat nearby, clutching his bleeding arm. Clara crawled toward him, tears mixing with the rain. You saved me again, she whispered. Robert looked at her sadly. No, you saved me from my own guilt. She smiled faintly, then looked at Harris. It's over. He nodded slowly. Yes, it's finally over. Ethan ran to his father, hugging him tightly. Dad, please don't ever leave me again. Robert hugged him back, holding on like his life depended on it. A week later, the news called it the Bridge Scandal Mystery. Samuel Crane's crimes were exposed: blackmail, fraud, and murder. Clara testified against his associates, earning a reduced sentence. When she was taken away, she looked at Robert one last time. Maybe in another life, she said softly. Robert nodded. In another life. Gosh, she was driven away. Ethan stood beside his father. Will we ever see her again? Robert sighed. Maybe not, but I'll never forget her. He looked out at the bridge in the distance, the place where truth, guilt, and love had all collided. The rain had finally stopped. For the first time in a long time, the sun broke through the clouds. Lighting the road ahead, Robert put his hand on Ethan's shoulder. Let's go home, son. Together they walked away, leaving behind the bridge that had carried every secret of their lives. The sun finally rose after days of rain. For the first time in weeks, the sky looked clear. But inside Robert's heart, the storm was far from over. He stood near the window of his living room, holding a cup of coffee. Ethan sat quietly at the table, sketching something in his notebook. The boy hadn't spoken much since the night at the bridge. Every time Robert looked at him, he saw the fear that still lingered in his son's eyes. The gunshots, the rain, the screams, they were burned into both their memories. Robert turned on the news. The headline flashed across the screen: Bridge case closed, Samuel Crane dead, Clara Hayes sentenced to 5 years. The anchor's voice was calm, almost cold, but to Robert, it felt like the world was talking about someone else's life. He switched off the TV. Enough of that. Ethan looked up. Dad, do you think it's really over? Robert hesitated, then forced a smile. Yes, son. It's over now. But in his heart, he knew the truth. Some shadows never fade. A letter from prison that evening. As Robert prepared dinner, the doorbell rang. He wiped his hands and went to open the door. A mail carrier handed him a small envelope. Registered letter from Mr. Robert Kane. Robert thanked him and looked at the sender's name. His heart skipped a beat. It was from Clara Hayes, postmarked from the state prison. He sat at the table, staring at it for a moment before opening it. The paper smelled faintly of old perfume, the same scent she wore at the wedding. He unfolded the letter. Robert, if you're reading this, it means I'm alive and safe. But safety doesn't mean peace. I keep dreaming about that night at the bridge, not because of Samuel, but because of something he said before he died. He whispered, I'm not the only one. Please, Robert, don't ignore that. Someone else was giving him orders. Someone who still knows everything about you and about me. Be careful. Clara. Robert's fingers tightened around the paper. A chill ran down his spine. He looked up at Ethan, who was watching him curiously. Who is it from? The boy asked. Just someone from the past, Robert said softly, tucking the letter away. He didn't want Ethan to worry again. But that night, Robert couldn't sleep. Clara's words kept echoing in his mind. I'm not the only one. The stranger at the office the next morning, Robert returned to work for the first time in weeks. His colleagues greeted him cautiously. They'd all seen the headlines. He tried to smile, to act normal, to drown himself in paperwork. But around noon, his secretary knocked on his door. Sir, there's a woman here to see you. She says it's urgent. Robert frowned. What's her name? She didn't say. Before he could respond, the woman walked in herself. She wore dark sunglasses and a long coat. Her voice was calm but cold. Hello, Robert. He blinked, confused. Do I know you? She took off her glasses. Robert's blood ran cold, her face those sharp eyes, the same shape as Clara's, but older. I'm Lydia Hayes, she said. Clara's aunt? Unfinished business. Robert stood up immediately. At Lydia. I didn't know Clara had any living relatives. It's because she didn't tell you, Lydia said smoothly, sitting down without invitation. She wanted to forget our family, especially after what happened to her mother. Robert clenched his jaw. You mean Margaret? Lydia nodded slowly. You remember her name now, I see? He hesitated. Yes, I caused the accident. But it wasn't intentional. Her lips curved into a cold smile. Oh, I know. Samuel told me everything before he died. Robert froze. You knew Samuel? I was the one who hired him, she said plainly. To find you? He stepped back. Why? Lydia leaned forward, her eyes glinting. Because my sister died, while you lived your happy little life. Clara was supposed to make you suffer, not fall in love with you. Robert's fists clenched. You manipulated her. She made her own choices, Lydia said softly. But I made sure she never forgot the truth. And now that Samuel's gone, I have to finish what he started. Robert's voice shook. You're threatening me? She smiled faintly. No, I'm warning you. There are things even Clara doesn't know about her mother's death, and you're going to help me uncover them. He stared at her, trying to read her expression. What do you want? Answers, she said simply. And justice. Then she stood up, fixing her coat. You'll hear from me soon, Robert. Before he could say another word, she was gone. The search begins that night. Robert sat in his study with a letter from Clara and the memory of Lydia's threat echoing in his mind. He opened his laptop and searched old newspaper archives after an hour. He found it a report from 25 years ago. Tragic accident on Milford Bridge, Margaret Hayes and daughter involved. Possible foul play suspected. Vehicle tampered before crash. His eyes widened. Foul play. He remembered what Clara had screamed on the bridge. Samuel tampered with the brakes. But what if Samuel wasn't alone back then either? Robert printed the article and noticed something strange at the bottom of the page. A signature from the police investigator in charge. Detective Leonard Harris. His head snapped up. Detective Harris. The same man investigating their case now. Doubt and fear the next morning, Robert visited the police station. Detective Harris greeted him with his usual calm tone. Robert, I didn't expect to see you so soon. Robert took out the old report. Did you investigate this accident? Harris glanced at it and nodded. Yes. It was one of my first cases. Why? You wrote here that foul play was suspected. That's right, Harris said. But back then, we couldn't prove it. Samuel Crane's name came up, but the evidence wasn't enough. Robert studied his face carefully. And Lydia Hayes? Did she contact you then? Harris's jaw tightened slightly. She did. She claimed her sister's death was part of a cover-up. Cover-up? The detective looked uneasy. It's complicated, Robert. There were people in Margaret's company who didn't want the truth coming out. Samuel wasn't the only one involved. So Claire's right. There's someone else. Harris nodded reluctantly. Yes, but whoever they are, they've stayed hidden for 25 years. Unseen eyes, when Robert left the station, he didn't notice the dark car parked across the street. Inside, a man in a gray suit was watching him through binoculars. He picked up his phone. He's talking to the detective again. A deep voice on the other end replied, Good. Keep him close. He doesn't know what's coming. The man nodded and started the engine, following Robert's car at a distance. At the prison, a warning meanwhile, Clara sat in the visitor room. She looked tired but determined. When the guard opened the door, she expected to see Robert. Instead, a woman walked in, tall, elegant, with cold eyes. Clara froze. Aunt Lydia? Lydia smiled thinly. You didn't think I'd let you rot here without saying hello, did you? What do you want? Clara asked quietly. To remind you who you really are, Lydia said, sitting down. Your mother's death was never an accident, and now the truth will finally come out. Clara narrowed her eyes. You're still blaming him, aren't you? Lydia tilted her head. Aren't you? Clara's hands tightened on the table. Robert saved me. You may hate him, but I don't. Lydia chuckled darkly. Love makes fools of us all. She stood up to leave. He won't survive what's coming, Clara. Not this time. As she walked out, Clara's heart raced. She knew that tone Lydia wasn't bluffing. She whispered to herself, I have to warn him, before it's too late. The message that night, Robert sat alone, staring at his phone. He hadn't told Ethan about Lydia yet. He didn't want his son living in fear again. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. A new message? Unknown number again? You didn't listen the first time. Meet me at the old Hayes mansion tomorrow at midnight, or your son will pay the price. Robert's heart pounded. He looked at Ethan's closed bedroom door, panic flooding his mind. The message continued, "Come alone." The return of the past, the old Hayes mansion stood on a hill outside the city, dark, silent, and half broken by time. It had been abandoned since Margaret's death. At exactly midnight, Robert parked his car nearby and stepped out, flashlight in hand. The air was cold, thick with fog. As he entered the house, the wooden floor creaked beneath his feet. His flashlight beam caught dust swirling in the air, broken furniture, shattered glass. Then a voice from the darkness, "Right on time, Mr. Kane." Robert turned sharply. Lydia stepped out from the shadows, holding a small pistol. "I told you, shadows don't fade," she said softly. "They just wait for the right moment." Robert's eyes narrowed. "Where's Ethan?" "He's safe." "For now," she said. "That depends on you." "What do you want from me, Lydia?" Her eyes glistened with tears, but there was steel in her voice. "I want you to confess that you killed my sister. I already told you it was an accident." She shook her head slowly. "No, you knew Samuel. You worked for her company. You were part of it." Robert's heart raced. "That's not true." She stepped closer. "Then prove it." Before he could reply, a loud crash came from upstairs, a door slamming open. Both of them froze. Lydia whispered, "We're not alone." The night felt heavier than usual. Clouds rolled over the small town like a thick gray blanket. In Robert's house, silence had taken over, a kind of silence that spoke louder than words. Ethan sat by the living room window, knees tucked to his chest, staring at the dark street outside. He couldn't sleep. Every creak of the floor, every whisper of wind against the glass made his heart jump. Ever since that man had appeared and left his note, he felt watched. The note had said only 3 words. She wasn't alone. Ethan had read it again and again, not understanding what it truly meant. Who was she? Clara or someone else? And if she wasn't alone, then who else was part of this? Robert entered quietly, holding a steaming mug of coffee. His eyes looked tired. Sleepless nights had aged him in just a few days. He handed the mug to Ethan and sat beside him. "Still awake?" he asked gently. Ethan shook his head. "I can't stop thinking about everything, Dad. The wedding, Clara, that man." Robert sighed deeply. "Me neither. I keep asking myself, how could I have missed so many signs? She was so perfect. Too perfect." The father and son sat in silence for a while. Outside, a car engine purred softly, then went silent. Neither of them noticed the shadow that slipped between the trees near their house. A knock at midnight, exactly midnight. There was a knock on the door. 3 sharp knocks. Ethan jumped. Robert stood quickly, his hand tightening around the coffee mug. "Stay here," he whispered. He opened the door slowly. A tall man in a dark coat stood outside, the same man Ethan had seen before. But this time, he wasn't hiding. His face was visible under the porch light, sharp jawline, piercing eyes, the look of someone who knew more than he should. "Mr. Robert Hayes," the man said calmly. "I think it's time we talked." Robert didn't move. "Who are you?" The man gave a faint smile. "Let's just say, someone who used to know Clara very well." Ethan's heart pounded. He stepped forward, despite his father's warning glance. "You left that note," he said. The man's eyes met his. "Smart kid." "Yes, I did." Robert tensed. "What do you want from us?" "Nothing," the man said, stepping closer. "But you deserve the truth. Clara wasn't acting alone. She was working for someone far more dangerous than you think." Robert's voice dropped. "Working for someone? What are you talking about?" The man reached into his coat slowly. Robert's hand went toward the phone, ready to call the police. But the man only pulled out a folded photograph. "Look at this," he said. Robert took the photo carefully. It showed Clara standing beside another man, middle-aged, expensive suit. And the same cold eyes that now stared from the porch. Robert looked up in shock. "That's you." The stranger smiled grimly. "Yes, my name is Victor. Clara was my fiancée once, too." The past returns. Robert was speechless. Ethan stared, his mouth slightly open. Victor continued. "Years ago, Clara and I worked together in a financial firm. She was clever, too clever. She learned to play people, use them. She took everything from me: money, reputation, trust, and disappeared." Ethan's voice trembled. "Then why did you come back? To hurt her?" Victor shook his head. "No, to stop her. But I was too late. When I found her again, she was with your father. She had changed her name, started over. And when I realized she was after Robert's company, I decided to warn him, but she found out. She tried to silence me." Robert's jaw tightened. "You're lying." Victor handed over a flash drive. "Everything's on here. Emails, bank transfers, plans. She was after you, Robert. And she wasn't alone. There's another person, someone you trusted, who helped her." Robert looked at the small device in disbelief. "Who?" Victor hesitated. "You won't believe me until you see it yourself." The file later that night, Robert sat at his computer, Ethan beside him. He plugged in the flash drive, his hands trembling. A folder appeared. Truth. Inside were dozens of documents, screenshots, and photos. Clara's face appeared again and again at meetings. In luxury cars, and once, shockingly, with someone they knew. Ethan leaned forward. "Dad, isn't that Mr. Keller?" Robert froze. Mr. Keller was his old business partner, his most trusted friend. In the photo, Keller and Clara were standing close together. Laughing in a cafe, Robert scrolled further. There were bank transactions between Clara and Keller's offshore account, plans to access Robert's firm's funds after the marriage, and a message that made Robert's blood run cold. "Once we're married, everything he owns is ours. Then we disappear," Ethan whispered. "They were going to steal everything." Robert buried his face in his hands. "All these years I trusted him. I defended him. I called him my brother." Ethan looked up, anger burning in his eyes. "We can still stop him, Dad. We can tell the police." Robert exhaled slowly. "We will. But we need proof that can't be denied. Keller has influenced friends in high places. If we go without full evidence, he'll make us look like liars." Victor's voice came from the doorway. "He's right. Keller will expect you to panic. But if you play his game carefully, he'll expose himself." Setting the trap the next morning, Robert called Keller as if nothing had happened. His voice was calm, polite, even friendly. "Keller, I was wondering if you could drop by today. I have something to discuss about the company." Keller agreed instantly. He sounded cheerful, unaware of what was waiting for him. Robert hung up and looked at Victor. "You'll be here when he arrives?" Victor nodded. "Hidden, of course. Let him talk first. Let him believe you're still blind." Ethan watched them, feeling both scared and excited. It felt like a movie, only this was real. When Keller arrived that afternoon, he was dressed in his usual elegant suit, smiling as always. "Robert, my friend, how are you holding up? I heard about that awful scene at your wedding." Robert forced a small smile. "Yes, it's been difficult. But I'm starting to see things more clearly now." They sat down. Keller started talking about company matters, avoiding any mention of Clara, but Robert had hidden a voice recorder under the table. And Victor watched silently from behind a partially open door. Finally, Robert leaned forward. "Keller, can I ask you something? Off the record?" "Of course. Did you ever meet Clara before I introduced you to her?" Keller's smile froze for a second. It was subtle, but Ethan noticed it from the hallway. Then Keller laughed lightly. "Robert, you know everyone in our circle meets eventually. Maybe once or twice." "Why?" Robert studied his face. "Because I found some photos. You two seemed close." Keller blinked, his fingers tightening slightly on his briefcase. "Photos? Of what kind?" Robert shrugged. "Just friendly ones. Unless there's something else I should know. The silence that followed was heavy. The slip Keller forced another smile. Robert, don't let that woman poison your mind. She's manipulative. She could have edited those photos to cause trouble. Robert leaned back. Strange. The bank records she left behind tell a similar story. Keller's eyes widened. Bank records? Yes. Transfers from your offshore account to hers. For the first time, Keller's calm cracked. That's impossible, he snapped. You can't prove anything at that moment. Victor stepped into the room. Oh, but we can. Keller turned white. You. Robert stood, his voice steady. It's over, Keller. We know everything. Clara might have been caught, but you're next. Keller tried to grab his briefcase, but Robert blocked him. The man's smooth charm was gone, replaced by panic. Victor lifted his phone. I've recorded everything you just said. Keller's voice trembled. You'll regret this. Both of you. He stormed out, slamming the door. Robert exhaled shakily. He's going to run. Victor nodded. Let him. We'll make sure the police are ready when he does. A new fear that night, Ethan watched from his window again. The sky was clear now, but his heart wasn't calm. He whispered to himself, if Keller was helping Clara, who else was involved? From far across the street, a pair of headlights flashed twice. Then the car drove off into the night. Ethan felt his stomach twist. Something told him. This wasn't over. The next morning arrived with a strange stillness. The air outside Robert's home was cold and heavy, as if the world was holding its breath. Inside, the faint smell of burnt toast, mixed with coffee. Ethan sat at the dining table, barely touching his breakfast. His mind replayed Keller's face from the day before, the sudden fear in his eyes, the anger and the promise. You'll regret this. Robert entered the kitchen quietly, holding his phone. His expression was tight, serious. He's gone, he said flatly. Ethan looked up. What do you mean gone, Keller? He didn't go home last night. His car's missing. His assistant said he canceled all meetings and turned off his phone. Robert's hand clenched around the mug. He's running. Ethan's stomach dropped. Shouldn't we call the police? We already did, Robert replied. But men like Keller, they don't just disappear. They have help, contacts, money. He's planning something. Victor entered from the living room, adjusting his dark jacket. His face looked calm, but his eyes told another story, sharp, calculating. He'll try to cover his tracks, Victor said. But he made a mistake yesterday. His panic was recorded. That's evidence. Robert looked at him. Enough to arrest him? Not yet, Victor replied. But enough to make him desperate. And desperate men make bad choices. The planner Bert and Victor sat with laptops open, papers scattered across the table. Ethan watched silently as they traced Keller's known accounts, his business connections, his last credit card locations. Victor pointed to a map. His last transaction was at a gas station near the old docks. That's not a place you go to hide. That's where you meet someone. Robert frowned. Someone like who? Victor leaned back. Someone who owes him favors. Or someone dangerous enough to help him disappear. Ethan listened, fear creeping through him. Dad, what if he's coming after us? Robert turned toward him, his expression softening. He won't hurt us, Ethan. Victor's voice was firmer. He might not come himself, but Keller has connections, people who do things quietly. We should be ready for that. Ethan swallowed hard. His hands trembled slightly. For a 12-year-old, this was too much, but he refused to look afraid. He wanted to be strong like his dad. The call that afternoon, the phone rang. Robert hesitated before answering. Hello? A voice on the other end, calm, smooth, and chillingly familiar, spoke. Robert, I thought we were friends. Robert's spine stiffened. Keller, you shouldn't have pushed me, Keller continued. You should have stayed quiet. Now it's too late. Robert's voice hardened. You betrayed me. You used me. You tried to destroy everything I built, Keller chuckled softly. And yet you're the one standing on the edge now. I gave you everything. Opportunities, investments, trust. And this is how you repay me? What do you want? Robert asked. I want my life back, Keller hissed. And if you think you can ruin me, think again. You'll lose more than your company. You'll lose your son. Robert froze. His breath caught. Don't you dare touch him, but the line went dead. The threat Trabert stood motionless, gripping the phone so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Victor rushed in. What happened? Robert's voice trembled slightly. He knows. He knows about Ethan. He threatened him. Victor's jaw tightened. That confirms it. Keller's desperate. He'll use fear to distract us. Ethan stood at the doorway, pale. He's coming here, isn't he? Victor looked at him seriously. Maybe not himself, but he'll send someone to scare you to send a message. Robert took a deep breath, trying to stay calm for his son's sake. Then we'll be ready. That night the house was quiet again, but it wasn't peaceful. The shadows felt longer, darker. Robert had turned on all the security lights. Victor sat in the living room, gun holstered not as a threat but as protection. Ethan couldn't sleep. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying Keller's voice in his mind. You'll lose your son. At 2 a.m., a noise came from outside, the sound of gravel crunching under slow footsteps. Ethan sat up instantly. Then a faint tap on the window. He froze. Another tap. He slipped out of bed and tiptoed to the window. The porch light flickered faintly, but he could see movement in the shadows. Someone was out there standing still, watching. Dad, Ethan whispered loudly. Someone's outside. Robert and Victor rushed in. Victor moved quickly toward the window, peering through the curtain. He saw the figure tall. Wearing a hood half hidden behind a tree, Victor whispered, Stay here, and stepped out the front door silently. The stranger Victor moved through the yard, every step silent. The man near the tree turned suddenly and ran toward the street. Hey, Victor shouted, chasing after him. The man sprinted across the road, but Victor was faster. He tackled him to the ground near the fence. The man struggled. Let go of me. Victor pulled off his hood, revealing a face he didn't expect. It wasn't one of Keller's men. It was someone much younger, a teenage boy, no older than 17. His eyes were wide with fear. Who are you? Victor demanded. I was just told to deliver this. The boy stammered. He pulled a small envelope from his pocket. Victor snatched it and stood up. By who? The boy hesitated. He didn't say his name. He said to give it to the boy? To Ethan. Victor's eyes narrowed. Get out of here, and don't come back. The boy scrambled up and ran into the night. Victor returned inside, holding the envelope. Robert and Ethan were waiting, both tense. What's inside? Ethan asked. Victor opened it slowly. Inside was a photograph, an old family photo. Ethan's mother smiling and holding a baby Ethan, and behind her, partly hidden in the background, was Keller. Ethan gasped. That's my mom. Robert's face went pale. His hand trembled as he took the photo. This can't be real. Victor examined it closely. It's real. Keller was connected to your wife long before Clara. The shock. Robert sank into a chair, staring at the photo. Memories flooded his mind, his late wife. Anna, her mysterious late nights, the phone calls she never explained. The one argument they never finished before she died in a car accident. Ethan whispered, Dad. Did Keller know Mom? Robert swallowed hard. She never told me. But this photo, he shook his head. I don't understand. Victor's voice was low. Maybe your wife found out something about him, something dangerous. Maybe her death wasn't an accident. Are you saying Keller killed her? Robert stared blankly at the wall, tears forming. No, that's not possible. But deep down, a terrible doubt began to grow. The hidden truth. The next morning, Victor made some calls. He found an old police contact, Detective Harris, who had investigated Anna's death years ago. When Victor mentioned Keller's name, the detective went silent for a long time. Then he said, Meet me. There's something you should see. They met at an old diner outside town. The detective, gray-haired and tired-looking, slid a dusty file across the table. "These were never released," he said. "At the time, we couldn't prove anything. But your wife's accident? It wasn't random. The brakes were tampered with." Robert's hands shook as he opened the file. Inside were crime scene photos, mechanical reports, and one blurry photo of a man near her car that night. It wasn't clear, but the shape, the posture, looked just like Keller. Robert whispered, "Oh my God." Ethan looked up at Victor, his eyes filled with anger and tears. "He killed my mom." Victor nodded slowly. "Now we know why Clara was part of this. Keller used her to finish what he started, to destroy you completely." Robert clenched his fists. "Then it's time we stop running. It's time we end this." The chase begins by the next evening. Robert, Victor, and Ethan were in the car, driving toward the docks, the same place Keller's last transaction had been made. The air smelled of salt and rust. Ethan sat in the back seat, holding his mother's photo tightly. Robert glanced at him in the mirror. "Stay in the car no matter what happens. Understand?" Ethan nodded, though his heart pounded violently. They stopped near a row of abandoned warehouses. Dim light glowed from one of them, flickering, unsteady. Victor whispered, "He's in there." Robert took a deep breath. "Let's finish this." They moved quietly, every step echoing in the cold night air. From inside the warehouse, voices murmured, Keller's among them. Ethan peered through a broken window. Keller stood beside a black van, loading boxes. He looked different now, wild, desperate, cornered. Robert stepped into the open. "It's over, Keller." Keller turned sharply, his face twisting in rage. "You should have stayed out of this." Victor appeared behind Robert, recording with his phone. "Police are on their way," Victor said calmly. "We have everything." Keller laughed darkly. "You think you can stop me? You don't even know the half of it." Then, from behind the van, another figure stepped out, a woman. Robert froze. His voice broke. "Anna." Ethan's world spun. His heart stopped. The woman stepped closer. Same face, same eyes as his mother, but older. Victor's voice trembled. "No, it can't be," Keller smiled. "Oh, it can. And it's about time you learned the truth." For a long moment, no one spoke. The sound of the sea hitting the dock echoed through the cold air. The flickering light above the warehouse door buzzed faintly, throwing broken shadows across the cracked floor. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. His heart was racing so fast it hurt. He blinked, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. It was her. The woman standing in front of them, pale, shaking, alive. His mother, Mom. Ethan whispered, his voice trembling. The woman's eyes filled with tears. She took a small, uncertain step forward. "Ethan." Robert felt his knees weaken. He took one step back, confusion and disbelief tearing through him. "No, this can't be. You died. I buried you. I saw your car." The woman looked at him, her face full of guilt and pain. "Robert, please. I didn't want it to be this way." Keller's voice broke the silence. "Oh, it's real, my friend. Every bit of it," he smirked, enjoying every second of their shock. "Your perfect wife wasn't so perfect after all." Victor stepped forward, his tone sharp. "Enough, Keller. What's going on here? Start talking, or I'll make sure you never walk out of this warehouse." Keller laughed, low and bitter. "You really think you know everything? You've only seen half the truth." He turned toward Anna, the woman Robert thought he lost forever. "Go on, tell them. Tell your son and your husband what you did." The confession on his lips trembled. "Please, Keller." "Don't." Robert's voice cracked. "Tell me what?" "Anna, what is he talking about?" She took a deep breath, her hands shaking. "Robert, everything that happened years ago, the accident, my death, it was all part of a deal gone wrong." Ethan's eyes widened. "A deal?" Anna nodded slowly. "I worked with Keller before you ever met him. I didn't tell you because I wanted to leave that life behind. I thought it was over." Keller sneered. "But it never really ends, does it?" We were partners, and she betrayed me. She stole something that belonged to me." Victor frowned. "What did she steal?" "A file," Keller said coldly. "Evidence. Records of the people I worked with. Powerful people. She thought she could expose us, and then just disappear. But instead, she almost got herself killed." Anna's eyes filled with tears. "You tried to have me killed, Keller? You tampered with my car?" Keller raised his hands mockingly. "Almost worked. The car went off the bridge, everyone thought you were gone, but you survived. And instead of coming home, you hid. You ran. You left your family behind." Robert's face twisted in pain. "You faked your death? You let me and Ethan think you were dead for years?" Anna sobbed. "Robert, I had no choice. If Keller knew I was alive, he would have come after you and Ethan. I had to disappear." Ethan's voice cracked. "You could have told us. You could have found a way." Anna shook her head. "I couldn't. I thought staying away was the only way to keep you safe." The truth behind the plan. Victor looked between them all, piecing it together. "So Clara, she was part of Keller's new plan. He lost you, Anna, but then he found a new way to get to Robert." Keller's grin faded. "You're smarter than you look, Victor." "Yes, Clara was the next move. When Anna took my evidence, I needed someone close to Robert to get access to his files, to find the missing data. Clara played her part well." Ethan clenched his fists. "You used her. You used all of us." Keller smirked. "It's just business, kid. Your father's company was worth millions, and more importantly, it held what I needed. That file. But when you stopped the wedding, you ruined everything." Robert stepped closer, his anger finally breaking through his shock. "You've destroyed my family once. I won't let you do it again." Keller laughed coldly. "You already did. You just don't realize it yet." The escape attempt suddenly. Keller reached into his coat. Victor reacted instantly. Robert down. A gunshot echoed through the warehouse. The sound was deafening. Ethan screamed. Robert pulled him behind a pile of crates. Victor fired once in return, not to kill, but to distract. Keller ducked behind the van, cursing. "You can't stop me. I'll take what's mine and burn everything else." Anna cried out, "Keller, stop! Don't do this." But Keller didn't listen. He ran toward the back exit, clutching a small briefcase. Victor chased after him. Robert turned to Anna. "Stay with Ethan," and ran after them both. The chase in the rain outside. Rain had started to fall, hard, heavy, and blinding. The dock lights flickered, reflecting off the wet concrete. Keller ran toward a black car parked by the gate. His shoes splashing through puddles. Victor caught up, tackling him from behind. They rolled onto the ground, fighting fiercely. The briefcase flew open, papers scattering everywhere. Robert ran up and grabbed Keller by the collar. "You ruined everything, Keller." "Why?" Keller spat blood, laughing bitterly. "Because people like me don't lose, Robert. We just start over." Kicked Robert away and jumped into his car. The engine roared. Victor shouted, "He's getting away!" Robert ran toward his car, but the engine refused to start, soaked wires from the rain. "No." Ethan appeared at the door, drenched but determined. "Dad, he's heading toward the bridge." Robert jumped out of the car, his voice rising. "Victor, get in. We'll cut him off." They took Victor's car and sped into the storm. The bridge loomed ahead, the same bridge where Anna's car had fallen years ago. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Keller's taillights glowed red through the rain, weaving dangerously. Robert gripped the wheel tighter. "He's losing control." Victor leaned forward. "Block him before the turn." Robert accelerated, their car skidding slightly on the wet road. Ethan, sitting in the back seat, stared in horror as Keller's car swerved wildly. For a moment, everything seemed to slow. Keller's terrified face lit by lightning. The car spinning, then a violent crash. Keller's car slammed into the railing and broke through it. "No!" Robert shouted. The vehicle plunged into the dark, raging water below. They stopped at the edge, headlights cutting through the storm. Robert ran out. Looking down, only bubbles and debris remained. Victor joined him, panting. "He's gone." Robert stared into the dark water for a long time. His voice broke. "Just like Anna. Same bridge. Same ending? But from behind them a soft voice said, "Not this time." They turned. Anna was standing there, soaked, her face pale but determined. No one else dies tonight. Aftermath: by the time the police arrived, the rain had stopped. Divers confirmed what everyone suspected. Keller's car had sunk deep into the river. But his body wasn't found. Robert stood by the police car, holding Ethan close. "It's over," he said quietly. Victor shook his head. "Not until we find the file he was after. That's still missing." Anna looked away. "I hid it. Years ago, in a place Keller would never think to look." Robert turned to her. "Where?" She hesitated. "In your company's main vault, under a false project name?" "It's been there all this time." Victor nodded slowly. "Then that's our next step." Family torn and rebuilt later that night. Back home, the three of them sat in silence. The rain tapped gently on the windows. Ethan finally spoke. "Mom, are you staying this time?" Anna reached across the table and took his hand. "If you'll let me." Robert looked at her, anger, love, confusion, all mixing inside him. "You broke us, Anna. You left me raising our son alone. I mourned you for years." Tears streamed down her face. "I know, and I'll never forgive myself for that. But if you'll give me one more chance, I want to fix it." Ethan's voice was soft but sure. "We can start again. Please, Dad." Robert looked at his son, then back at Anna. After a long pause, he nodded. "One chance. But this time, no more secrets," Anna whispered. "No more secrets." But the shadows remained later that night. As everyone finally tried to sleep, Victor stayed awake in the living room. Staring at his phone, he had received a new message. No sender name. Just one line: "You think Keller's gone? Look closer." Attached was a blurry photo taken just an hour ago of a man limping out of the river. Half hidden by darkness, Victor's face hardened. He whispered to himself, "It's not over yet." The night was heavy with fog, curling over the city like ghostly fingers. Robert, Anna, and Ethan tried to sleep, but none of them could. Even Victor, who had always been calm under pressure, sat in the living room staring at his phone. The message he had received hours ago weighed on him. "You think Keller's gone? Look closer." Attached was a blurry photo, a figure emerging from the river, half hidden by darkness. Moving slowly but steadily, Victor scrolled through the image again. The outline of the man was unmistakable. The limp, the posture, the way he carried himself. It could be none other than Keller. His chest tightened. "He survived," he whispered, "and he's planning something big." The early morning alarm by dawn. Robert had already decided. They couldn't wait for Keller to act. They needed to find the file he was after, the one Anna had hidden years ago. Ethan, still groggy, walked into the living room. "Dad, what's going on?" Robert put a hand on his shoulder. "Keller survived, son. We can't be careless anymore. Today, we take action, but carefully. We plan, we act, and we end this once and for all." Anna joined them, her face pale but resolute. "I hid the file years ago in the company vault. It's safe, but getting it will take planning. We have to go there before Keller figures out where it is." Victor nodded. "We'll need a distraction. If Keller is already moving, we can't risk him being there first." Ethan swallowed hard. "Dad, what if he tries to hurt us again?" Robert hugged him tightly. "We won't let him. I promise." The vault planned by noon, they were at the company building. The streets were quiet, but Robert felt the tension building. Every shadow seemed alive. Every passerby looked like a spy. Victor had created a diversion. False alarm at the back gates, drawing the security. Staffed to the other side, Robert and Anna slipped through the front entrance. Ethan stayed hidden in the car, ready to call for help if needed. The vault was massive. Steel doors, digital locks, and hidden security cameras. Anna led the way, entering the codes she had memorized. As the heavy door swung open, Robert felt a mix of relief and fear. The file, years of secrets. Evidence of Keller's crimes was finally within their reach. But as they stepped inside, Victor's phone buzzed. "He's here. Keller's return." Rader's return. Rader's blood ran cold. From the shadows near the entrance, a familiar figure stepped forward, wet, ragged, but unmistakable. "Keller, did you miss me?" he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. His eyes gleamed with a mixture of madness and obsession. Robert clenched his fists. "It's over, Keller. You're done." Keller laughed softly. "Over? Oh no, Robert. This is just the beginning. You think I let a little river stop me? You think I'd fail after everything I planned?" Anna's hand trembled as she held Robert's arm. "Robert, we have the file. We can end this." Keller's grin widened. "That file means nothing if I die. And I won't die today." The chase inside Keller lunged toward the vault, trying to grab the folder Robert and Anna had pulled out. Robert blocked him. The two men struggled, crashing into shelves, knocking papers and computers onto the floor. Victor fired a warning shot into the ceiling. "Stop, or you'll regret it." Keller laughed again, breaking free. He grabbed the folder, but Anna dove forward, snatching it from him. "You'll never win, Keller," she shouted. Keller froze for a moment, then smirked. "Never. I always win. Always." He lunged again, knocking Anna to the side. Robert tackled him, pinning him down. Ethan, who had been watching from the car, finally ran inside, screaming, "Stop hurting my mom!" Keller turned his head, his eyes locking with Ethan's. For a split second, the madness faltered. Robert whispered Ethan, "Stay strong. Just watch." The vault explosion threat Keller suddenly twisted, reaching for a device strapped to his belt. Robert froze. "What are you doing?" Keller grinned maniacally. "You'd think I'd come here unprepared? If I go down, so do you. This vault, all the evidence, everything, it blows up if I die." Victor shouted, "It's a bluff." Keller smirked, pressing a button. A faint click echoed, and the red light on the device blinked. Anna's hands shook. "Robert, we have to get out of here." Robert gritted his teeth. "Not until we end this." Victor disabled the device. Now, Victor ran to the vault's control panel. Sweat dripped down his face as he carefully bypassed the digital lock. After tense moments, the blinking red light went off. Keller's eyes widened. Impossible. Robert shoved him back. "It's over, Keller." The confrontation Keller stood, panting, blood and sweat mixing on his face. "You think this ends tonight?" Robert grabbed him firmly. "Yes, it ends tonight. No more running, no more threats. You face justice." Keller laughed bitterly. "Justice? You call this justice? You don't know the half of it. I had plans for your son, Robert. Plans to destroy your family from the inside out." Ethan stepped forward, his eyes blazing. "Don't you dare touch my family." Keller froze. For the first time, fear touched his face. Anna stepped forward, holding the folder tightly. "You're done. The evidence, the proof, everything you've done is in here. The police have everything they need." Victor nodded, recording the entire scene. "It's over, Keller. You're finished." Lay's face twisted with rage, but suddenly police sirens wailed outside. The arrest Keller's expression faltered. He glanced toward the sound, then back at Robert and Anna. "No." He shouted, "You think this ends here?" Before he could act, the police stormed in, guns drawn. "Step away from the suspect." Keller dropped to his knees, realizing the fight was over. Victor handed the folder to the officers. Detectives took Keller away, cuffed and silent. His threats echoed faintly as he was let out, but no one paid attention anymore. Robert sank against the wall, exhausted. Ethan ran forward and hugged his father. "We did it, Dad," Anna wrapped her arms around both of them. "It's finally over." A family reunited that night. At home, the three sat together. No devices, no alarms, no shadows. "Just the warmth of being together," Ethan whispered Mom. "Will you stay this time?" Anna smiled, tears running down her cheeks. "Yes, Ethan, I'm not going anywhere." Robert held them both close. One more chance. And this time, no secrets. Ethan smiled faintly. No secrets. Victor stood by the door, looking out at the city skyline. He received a text. "Good work. For now." Victor smirked. Even shadows have limits. The city slept peacefully that night, but everyone knew darkness may always return. The city slept under a blanket of mist, unaware of the storm that had just passed. Robert, Anna, and Ethan had returned home after Keller's arrest. They tried to convince themselves it was finally over. But the feeling of relief was fragile, like a glass that could shatter at any moment. Victor sat in the living room, reviewing files on his laptop. His expression was tense. Something didn't sit right. Robert, exhausted, sank into his armchair. "It's done," he said. "Keller is behind bars. The file is safe. Finally, we can breathe, you know?" Victor shook his head. "Not yet. Keller always had allies. People who worked in the shadows. People who won't just sit back and watch him fail." Ethan frowned. "Allies? Like who?" Victor didn't answer. Instead, he pulled up a map of the city and highlighted several locations. These are spots Keller was linked to, places where his contacts operated. If any of these move now, it's trouble, and it could come for you, Robert, and your family. Anna looked worried. "We can't hide forever. What do we do?" Victor's jaw tightened. "We prepare, and we watch." The first sign that night, as Robert checked the doors and windows, Ethan noticed a small black drone hovering outside their backyard. It moved silently, almost invisible in the darkness. "Dad," Ethan whispered, pointing. Robert's heart sank. "Get inside. Now." Victor appeared from the shadows holding his phone. "It's a surveillance drone. Keller's allies are already scouting. They want information, and they'll stop at nothing to get it." Ethan swallowed hard. "But he's in jail." Victor's eyes were cold. "He may be locked up, but power doesn't die in a cell, and neither does revenge." The unexpected visitor the next morning, a knock came at the front door. Robert hesitated before opening it. A man in a dark suit stood outside. He introduced himself as Detective Harris, the same detective who had investigated on his accident years ago. "I need to warn you," Harris said quickly. "Keller had friends in high places. Some of them are dangerous, and they know about the vault, about the file, and about your family. You're not safe at home." Robert's face turned pale. "We know. Victor already warned us." Harris looked uneasy. "You need to leave the city. Hide, and trust no one." Ethan's eyes widened. "Leave, but school. Friends." Robert shook his head. "Ethan, this is bigger than anything we've ever faced. If we stay, we risk everything." Anna grabbed Robert's arm. "We have to do it. For Ethan, for us." The safe house by nightfall, they packed a small bag of essentials and followed Victor to a secluded safe house on the outskirts of the city. It was isolated, surrounded by woods and high walls, perfect for hiding. Ethan peeked out the window. "It's like a fortress." Victor smiled faintly. "It has to be. If Keller's allies are watching, they won't give up easily." For a few hours, the family tried to rest, but the tension made sleep impossible. Every sound, a rustling tree, a distant car, made them jump. Victor stayed awake, monitoring the security feeds from hidden cameras. "They'll come," he murmured. "It's just a matter of time." The first attack at around 2 a.m., the calm shattered. A loud crash came from the side wall. Robert grabbed a baseball bat. Ethan hid behind his mother. Victor grabbed his gun and moved toward the source. Through the darkness, figures emerged, masked intruders, moving quickly and silently. They were armed, skilled, and determined. Robert swung the bat at the first intruder. The man stumbled but kept coming. Victor fired warning shots, forcing 2 others to retreat. Ethan gasped. "They're trying to get the file." Anna clutched Ethan tightly. "We have to protect it, and us." The family fought desperately. Robert blocked an intruder from breaking in further. Victor managed to take down another with precision. The masked men realized they were outnumbered and retreated into the night, leaving behind a note. "This is just the beginning." Ethan read it aloud, his voice trembling. "They're coming back." The warning the next morning, Victor examined the broken security system. "They'll be back," he said. "And next time, they'll be smarter." Robert rubbed his forehead. How do we stop them? Victor leaned in. We need to find Keller's allies before they find us. There's someone you trust deeply who may already be helping them without knowing it. Anna's eyes widened. Who? Victor shook his head. I don't know yet, but we have to be careful. No one is beyond suspicion. Ethan's hands shook. Even people we know. Victor nodded. Especially them. Revenge can make people do anything. The hidden enemy revealed later that day, Victor got a tip from an anonymous source. They led him to an abandoned warehouse near the docks, a place Keller's allies were using as a base. Robert. Anna and Ethan followed, disguised and hidden, inside. Victor's phone captured something shocking. Keller's allies were not strangers. They included someone from Robert's company, someone he had trusted for years. Robert's blood ran cold. It can't be. It has to be a mistake. Victor shook his head. Look closer. Through the grainy video feed, Robert recognized the figure, his old accountant, Martin. Martin had been close to the family, had known everything about the company and its secrets. And now he was working with Keller's people. Ethan's eyes widened. He betrayed us? Robert clenched his fists. After everything, he would betray us. How? Victor's voice was sharp. Because Keller's influence doesn't stop at jail. He's made deals, bribed people, and promised them power. Martin wants his cut, and he doesn't care who gets hurt. Anna's hand shook. We trusted him. Robert's jaw tightened. Then we'll make sure he pays for this. But first, we survived tonight. The night of the second attack that night, they fortified the safe house. Windows were blocked, doors secured, and cameras monitored every angle. Hours passed slowly, each tick of the clock echoing loudly in the silent house. At midnight, a shadow moved outside. The masked figures returned faster, smarter. This time, they were coordinated, using tools to break through the walls. Robert, Victor, Anna, and Ethan prepared for the fight. Ethan gripped a metal rod, ready to defend his family. The intruders broke in. Chaos erupted. Victor fought expertly, taking down one masked man after another. Robert and Anna worked together to block entrances, screaming instructions to Ethan. One masked figure managed to grab a side door panel. Robert lunged, tackling the man, and ripped off his mask. It was Martin. Robert's face went pale. Martin, why? Martin sneered. Why? Because power and money mean everything. Keller gave me a choice, help him or die. I chose survival. Ethan screamed. How could you betray us? You were like family. Martin's eyes were cold. Family doesn't matter when your life is at stake, and you don't know what's coming next. Victor aimed his gun. Not tonight. You go down now. The aftermath. By the early morning, the intruders had retreated. The house was a mess. Broken windows, overturned furniture, and bruised bodies. Robert sat in the corner, exhausted, holding Ethan. We can't let our guard down. Not ever. Anna nodded. We have to finish this fully. Keller, his allies, Martin, they're all threats until they're gone. Victor looked out the window, scanning the horizon. And they won't stop. Not until they're stopped themselves. Ethan hugged his parents tightly. I'm scared, Robert whispered. I know, son. But we'll face it together. As a family, Anna kissed Ethan's forehead. No more secrets. No more lies. We fight together always. Victor clenched his jaw. Then let's prepare. The real battle begins now. Outside, the city seemed calm, unaware of the danger lurking in its shadows. But inside the safe house, one thought burned clearly in everyone's mind. The hidden enemy had revealed himself. And the war was just beginning. The safe house was silent, too silent. After the second attack, Robert, Anna, Ethan, and Victor were exhausted. They patched up their wounds, checked security cameras, and fortified doors. Every shadow, every creak of the old house made their hearts race. Victor sat on the edge of the couch, staring at his laptop. Keller is in jail, yes? Martin is exposed, yes. But the real problem is, we still don't know the full network. There may be more inside, people you trust without knowing. Robert rubbed his forehead. Inside? You mean someone in my company? Victor nodded. Or worse. Someone close to you in your family circle. The kind of person who watches and waits, quietly feeding information to the enemy. You mean someone we know? Anna's face went pale. But who could it be? Everyone we trusted is loyal. Victor's eyes narrowed. Not everyone. Suspicious call later that night. The landline rang, an old rotary phone they had kept for emergencies. Victor answered first. A voice whispered on the line, distorted and calm. You think you're safe in the safe house? You're wrong. The enemy is closer than you think. Who is this? The line clicked dead. Robert clenched his fists. They're taunting us. Someone knows exactly where we are. Ethan's hands shook. Dad, could it be Martin? Victor shook his head. Martin can't reach you here. This is someone else. Someone smarter. Someone inside your circle, Anna whispered, her voice trembling inside. But who? The family meeting the next day, Robert called for a private family meeting. They sat in the small living room, tense and silent. We can't ignore the fact that the enemy may be someone we know, Robert said slowly. We have to watch everyone closely, even people we think are safe. Ethan swallowed hard. Like my teachers. Friends? Robert shook his head. No, son, more like adults you trust. People who can see our movements, our plans. Anna looked worried. But that's everyone we work with. How can we know? Victor interjected. We observe, we test, and we don't trust blindly. We assume everyone could be a threat until proven loyal. That's the only way to survive. Ethan's eyes filled with fear. This is like being in a war. Robert nodded. Exactly. And in this war, mistakes can cost lives. The discovery a few days later, Victor received an encrypted email. He frowned as he read it. We know your location. We know your plan. The file is useless without the code. Victor showed it to Robert. They're trying to scare us. But there's a catch. This email came from inside your company network. Robert's face went pale. Inside? But who? Victor tapped his laptop, tracing the email's path. After a tense search, he found the source. His eyes widened. It's from your secretary, Lisa. Robert's hands trembled. Lisa, she's been with me for years. She's loyal. I trust her. Victor shook his head. Clearly not. Someone planted her as a mole, or she's being manipulated. Either way, she's feeding information to Keller's network. How could she betray us? Ethan whispered. She knew about the file. And our plans? Robert clenched his fists. Then we confront her, and we end this now. The confrontation later that evening, they arranged a video call with Lisa. Under the pretense of discussing company matters, Lisa appeared on screen, smiling warmly. Robert, it's been a while. How are you? Robert's voice was firm. Cut the act, Lisa. We know everything. Your emails, your calls, everything. Lisa's smile faltered. I don't know what you're talking about. Victor leaned forward, voice cold. The email. Tracing it. It came from you. Explain. Lisa's hands trembled. I had no choice. Keller! He threatened my family. He said if I didn't help, they would be hurt. I tried to protect them. Robert's voice softened slightly. Why didn't you come to us? Lisa's eyes filled with tears. I couldn't. He's everywhere. I'm sorry. I tried to resist, but he's too strong. Ethan's voice shook. So you were helping him. While he was trying to hurt us? Lisa nodded. I didn't want to, but I had no choice. Victor's jaw tightened. We'll deal with Keller, but you will help us now. Fully. No more secrets. Lisa swallowed hard. Yes, I will. Robert nodded. Good. But know this. One more mistake, and it's over. A trap set with Lisa's help. Victor began tracing Keller's remaining network. They found several safe houses, several hidden caches of weapons, and multiple operatives scattered throughout the city. Victor turned to Robert. We'll lure them into a trap. We'll isolate Keller's allies one by one, and we'll make sure they never threaten your family again. Robert nodded. We can't afford another mistake. Ethan looked worried. Dad, are we ready for this? Robert placed a hand on his shoulder. We have to be for you. For your mom? For all of us. The first strike the next night, Victor and Lisa coordinated a plan. They monitored one of Keller's hidden caches, a warehouse filled with weapons and documents. Robert, Anna, and Victor approached silently armed and ready. Ethan stayed hidden, watching from a safe distance. Inside, several masked operatives were busy. Robert signaled Victor. Victor gave a nod, and a swift, coordinated strike. They neutralized the operatives, tying them up and calling the authorities. Anna's hand shook. It's over, isn't it? Victor shook his head. This is only the beginning. Keller may be behind bars, but his network is bigger than you think. One wrong move, and they'll strike back. The revelation after the warehouse raid, Victor debriefed the family. The mole, Lisa, was only one piece of the puzzle. There's still someone higher up, someone pulling the strings behind Keller. Robert frowned. Who? Victor's expression was grim. We don't know yet. But whoever it is, they've been planning this for years. And they know your weaknesses, your family, your fears, your routines. Ethan shivered. So, someone is still watching us? Victor nodded. Yes. And they'll try again. Harder, smarter, deadlier. Anna's face went pale. Then we can't stay here. We have to keep moving, keep hiding. Robert clenched his fists. We will, but we fight. And we protect our family no matter what. Ethan whispered, I don't want to lose anyone else. Robert hugged him tightly. You won't. Not this time. The calm before the storm that night. The family tried to rest in their safe house. Fortified and prepared, Victor stayed awake, watching the security feeds, tracing every movement. The shadows outside seemed alive, a reminder that the enemy was still out there. Robert held on his hand. We've survived so much. But I have a feeling the hardest part is yet to come. Anna nodded. We face the worst. We can face whatever comes next together. Ethan curled up between them, whispered, please. No more secrets. No more lies. Robert smiled faintly. No more secrets. Ever. Victor, standing at the window, whispered to himself, the hidden enemy is closer than they know, and the final battle is coming. The city was quiet that night, almost unnaturally quiet. After weeks of chaos, attacks, and revelations, Robert, Anna, Ethan, and Victor tried to catch a moment of peace. But inside the safe house, attention lingered like a heavy fog. Victor monitored every camera feed, every movement outside. His instincts screamed that danger was closer than ever. Robert sat on the sofa, exhausted. We've handled Keller, his allies, the mole. What else is there? Victor didn't answer. He rarely spoke without reason. His eyes stayed fixed on the screen, scanning the shadows. Anna poured a cup of tea, trying to calm her nerves. We've survived so much. Maybe now we can finally rebuild. Ethan curled up on the rug with a blanket, looked between them nervously. Mom, Dad, I don't want to lose anyone else. I'm scared. Robert hugged him tightly. You won't lose us, Ethan. We'll face whatever comes next together. Victor's voice broke the fragile calm. That's what you think? But the real betrayal is coming from someone you trust the most. What? What do you mean? Victor's eyes were sharp. Someone in this house, someone close, is feeding information to Keller's network even now. Anna's hands trembled. But that's impossible. Who? Victor shook his head. We'll find out soon. Be ready. And watch everyone. A strange phone call that night. Robert's phone rang a familiar number. Masked by an unknown ID, he hesitated but answered. Robert. A calm, familiar voice whispered. Robert's blood ran cold. Lisa, no, the voice said. It's someone closer. Someone you'd never suspect. Robert's hands tightened around the phone. Who are you? What do you want? You'll see soon, the voice said, then clicked dead. Robert's heart pounded. He looked at Anna. It's inside the house. Someone we trust. It's a trap. Anna's eyes widened. Who could it be? Victor's expression was grim. Watch carefully. The final betrayal is about to unfold. Signs of suspicion over the next day. Small signs began to appear. Doors slightly ajar. Items misplaced. Security cameras offline for a few minutes. Ethan noticed something strange in the kitchen. Mom, Dad? The back door. It was open. Robert checked the door and reinforced the lock. Someone is testing us. Trying to find a weakness, Anna whispered. But who? Who is doing this? Victor's eyes narrowed. It's someone close enough to the house to move freely. Someone you wouldn't suspect. The discovery that evening, Victor accessed the house's internal network. He traced a signal, a laptop connected to their Wi-Fi network, sending encrypted messages. Robert's face went pale as Victor revealed the screen. Look, it's sending updates about your family's location. Every move, every plan. And it's connected to Keller's allies, Ethan gasped. Who is it? Robert shook his head in disbelief. I can't believe it. It has to be a mistake. Victor's finger hovered over the keyboard. No mistake. Look closer. The name appeared on the screen. It was Anna's assistant, Sarah. Anna's hands flew to her mouth. Sarah. She's been here all along. She betrayed us? Victor nodded. She's the final piece of Keller's network. She was feeding him information while pretending to help you. The confrontation with Sir Robert and Victor confronted Sarah immediately. She was calm, almost smug. Robert, you look shocked, she said softly. Robert stepped forward. Why, Sarah? You were part of this family? Why betray us? Sarah's lips curled into a small smile. You've been too blind, Robert. Keller gave me a choice. Power, money, survival. And I chose. Wisely. You and your little family have everything. I wanted a piece of it. Yana's voice shook with anger. You played us all. All this time you were helping Keller's network. Sarah shrugged. I did what I had to do. You're weak, trusting, and predictable. You never saw it coming. Ethan screamed, You're evil. Sarah's eyes glinted. Call me whatever you want. But I am the one in control here, until I decide to let go. A deadly plan. Victor quickly realized Sarah had planted small explosives around the safe house. Nothing huge, but enough to cause chaos and distract them. Robert, Anna, Ethan, we have to leave. Now, Victor yelled. Robert grabbed Ethan. Anna grabbed the file. They ran out the back, following a hidden path Victor had prepared. Sarah tried to stop them, but Victor tackled her. She struggled, but he restrained her. It's over, Sarah, Victor said coldly. Sarah's laugh echoed through the night. It's never over. You think Keller is gone? He's coming back. Stronger. And when he does, you'll wish you trusted me. Victor didn't respond. He secured her and called the authorities. The aftermath, the family reached a secondary safe house, smaller. More isolated and heavily secured, Robert collapsed onto the couch, holding Ethan. I can't believe it. Someone so close betrayed us. How did we not see it? Anna shook her head, tears streaming. We trusted the wrong person. And it nearly cost us everything. Victor monitored the perimeter. Sarah was just a messenger. Keller is still out there, and his network isn't finished. This is the real war. The final battle may be closer than you think. Ethan looked up, frightened. Dad, we can survive this? Robert hugged him tightly. Yes, Ethan. We survive this. Together no matter what, Anna whispered. We've lost so much, but we won't lose each other. Victor's eyes were hard. And we make sure no one ever betrays this family again. We'll end Keller's network. Once and for all, the calm before the storm, as the night fell, the family sat together, tense but united. Robert looked out the window. I can feel it. The final battle is coming. Keller's network, the hidden enemies, they won't stop until we're gone. Na held Ethan close. We'll face it together, Ethan whispered. No more secrets. Promise? Robert and Anna both nodded. No more secrets, ever. Victor checked the cameras one last time. The enemy is closer than you think. The final betrayal may be behind this window, or in the shadows. We have to be ready for everything. Outside, the city slept, unaware that darkness had already returned. Inside the safe house, one thought burned in every mind: the real fight. The one that would decide their family's fate was about to begin. The night was thick with tension. After weeks of attacks, betrayals, and shocking revelations, Robert, Anna, Ethan, and Victor had fortified the safe house as best as they could. But deep inside, they all knew one truth. Keller's network was coming for them, and this time, it wouldn't be a warning. Victor paced the room, checking the security feeds again. They're planning something big. I can feel it. And it's not just the operatives we've faced before. This is the main force. They're coming to finish what Keller started. Robert clenched his fists. We've survived before. We can survive again. We have to... Anna nodded, gripping Ethan's hand. We fight together. No matter what. Ethan's eyes widened. Even if it's dangerous? Robert hugged him tightly. Especially if it's dangerous. Together, it's the first striker on midnight. A distant hum echoed outside, faint, but growing louder, Victor whispered. They're here. Through the cameras, they saw dozens of figures moving toward the safe house, masked, armed, and coordinated. Keller's allies had come in full force. Robert turned to Anna. Ethan, stay behind me. Anna, stay close. Victor, guide us. The intruders reached the outer perimeter. Some tried climbing the walls. Others attempted the gates. Victor fired warning shots into the air. They're testing you. Stay calm. Robert grabbed a metal rod and stepped forward. We've fought before. We can do it again. Chaos inside the safe house. The intruders broke the main door. Throwing the family into chaos, Robert and Victor fought hand to hand, blocking attackers and securing the file. Anna grabbed a small fire extinguisher and swung it at anyone who approached. Ethan, terrified but brave, picked up a heavy lamp and held it like a weapon. Leave my family alone. He screamed. The house shook as the intruders tried to overpower them. Robert tackled one man, throwing him into a wall. Victor disarmed another and tied him up. Anna managed to push two intruders out the back door. It was a struggle of wills, every second counting. Every movement could mean life or death. The unexpected elicitingly. The power went out, plunging the house into darkness. Victor hissed. They've cut the electricity. Stay sharp. A voice echoed in the dark. Need some help? A figure emerged from the shadows. It was Lisa, the former mole, now fully loyal and determined to protect the family. Lisa, Robert whispered, surprised. She nodded. I couldn't stop thinking about what I did. I have to make this right. With her help, they regrouped. Lisa threw a smoke bomb, disorienting the intruders. Robert and Victor quickly tied up 3 more masked men. Anna and Ethan stayed close, defending the file. The turning point, the battle raged for hours. The house shook. Windows shattered. And the sound of fighting echoed into the night. Ethan's small voice called out, Dad! They're everywhere. Robert took a deep breath. Stay with me, Ethan. Focus. Watch my moves. We can survive this. Victor pointed at the back door. This is our chance. Lead them into the hallway? It's a trap. Robert and Anna nodded. Together, they herded the intruders into the hallway, where Victor had rigged a series of barricades and tied wires to create noise and confusion. The intruders stumbled, fell, and collided. The family took advantage, tying up one after another until only a handful remained. The confrontation with the leader finally, a figure stepped forward, tall, imposing, and unmistakably dangerous. The leader of Keller's network, the mastermind behind every attack. Robert froze. You survived? The leader laughed coldly. Of course. You think Keller could fall without someone finishing the job? Anna stepped in front of Ethan, holding the file tightly. It ends tonight. Leave now or face justice. Justice? Your children playing at war? You can't stop me. Not even with your little tricks. Victor aimed his gun. One wrong move, and it's over for you. The leader lunged. Robert met him head-on. A brutal fight broke out, fist against fist, metal against metal. Every second felt like an eternity. Anna and Lisa worked together to subdue the remaining intruders. Ethan stayed hidden but watched every move, learning courage and strength, victory and sacrifice. Finally, after what seemed like hours, Robert landed a decisive blow. Knocking the leader unconscious, Victor quickly secured the file. Tying up the remaining intruders, Anna breathed heavily. Is it finally over? Robert, bloodied but alive, looked at his family. For now. But we need to stay prepared. Keller's network may have other members. Waiting. Ethan ran forward, hugging his parents tightly. We survived. Lisa, kneeling beside them, nodded. Thanks to all of you. We did it together. Victor looked around, still vigilant. We survived tonight, but the war isn't over. We need to plan for every possible threat from here on. Aftermath and reflection. The next morning, the family cleaned up the house and treated their wounds. Bruises, cuts, and exhaustion were visible, but so was relief. Robert hugged Ethan. You were brave, son. I'm proud of you. Ethan smiled faintly. I was scared, but I wanted to protect everyone. Anna held Robert's hand. We've been through so much, but we're still together, Victor added. The safe house was only a temporary victory. We need to remain vigilant. Keller's network isn't completely gone. There are shadows everywhere, Robert nodded. Then we prepare. We protect our family. No one threatens us again. Ethan looked out the window. Can we really be safe now? Robert smiled faintly. We'll try our best. But remember, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's fighting even when you're afraid. A family united that night. The family sat together, bruised, exhausted, but alive. Ethan whispered, "Promise me." No more secrets? Robert and Anna nodded. No more secrets ever. Victor watched from the window, silent. The shadows may return, he murmured. But this family, they're stronger than any enemy. Outside, the city remained unaware of the battle that had taken place. But inside, a family had fought, survived, and learned the true meaning of courage, unity, and love. For Robert, Anna, Ethan, and Victor, the battle for survival had taught them that together, they were unstoppable. After the brutal night of fighting, the safe house was eerily quiet. Robert, Anna, Ethan, and Victor were physically exhausted, but emotionally alert. Each knew that their victory, though significant, was only temporary. Keller's network was still out there. The shadows they'd been running from were patient, cunning, and relentless. Victor checked the security cameras for the 100th time. They're silent now, he said. But silence doesn't mean safety. It means they're planning, and they're patient. Robert leaned back in his chair, rubbing his bruised shoulders. We need to rebuild, at least for a moment. Ethan needs to feel normal. He needs hope. Anna nodded. Yes. Maybe a day, a few hours of calm. We've earned it. Ethan peeked from behind the couch, his eyes still wide. Can we play outside? Just for a little while? Robert smiled faintly. Just for a little while. Victor shook his head. Don't get too comfortable. We have to remain vigilant. But, okay, let them have a few moments of normalcy. Moments of peace. The next morning, the family ventured outside the safe house for the first time in weeks. The sun felt warm on their faces. The air smelled fresh, and for a moment, they forgot about the danger lurking in the shadows. Ethan ran through the small clearing, laughing, chasing butterflies, and imagining a world without fear. Anna watched him, tears forming in her eyes. I almost forgot what it feels like to see him happy, truly happy. Robert joined her side, holding her hand. We've survived so much, Anna. This is what we fight for. For these moments, Victor, scanning the perimeter even while watching Ethan play, muttered, "Enjoy it. The storm isn't over." The unexpected message later that evening, Victor's encrypted phone buzzed. A message appeared. "You think the battle is over? But the final storm is coming. Prepare your family." Robert's face went pale. The final storm. It's coming. They're gathering forces for one last attack. Anna shivered. "How do they know our location?" Victor frowned. "Someone is still watching us. Perhaps someone we never suspected. It's a warning. And a test." Ethan clutched his parents' hands. "Is it going to be like last time?" Robert hugged him tightly. "We'll survive it. Together," Victor added grimly. "This time, it won't just be a raid. They plan to hit us hard. They want to end this war once and for all." Rebuilding and preparing, the family spent the next day repairing the safe house, reinforcing walls, and setting up hidden traps and security measures. Anna organized food and supplies while teaching Ethan simple safety measures: how to stay calm, what to do in emergencies, and how to trust his instincts. Victor trained Robert and Anna in self-defense, focusing on quick and strategic moves that could protect the family if Keller's network struck again. Robert practiced tirelessly, his determination growing stronger. "We're not running anymore. We protect our home, our family, and our future." Ethan, despite his age, absorbed every lesson. He was no longer just a scared child. He was learning courage and resilience. The nightfall, and as night fell, the family gathered inside the safe house. The windows were shuttered, cameras monitored every angle, and motion sensors were active. But even with all precautions, the unease remained. Victor sat quietly in the corner, reviewing maps and camera feeds. "They're out there. I can feel it. The storm is approaching. And this time, it won't be a test. It'll be the final battle," Anna whispered. "Do you think we can survive it?" Victor's eyes met hers. "We have to. No one else can protect this family. The enemy thinks they're strong, but they haven't faced the full courage of a family united." Ethan hugged his parents tightly. "Please, no more surprises. No more surprises. We're ready for whatever comes." The first sign of the storm around midnight? A faint vibration shook the house, almost imperceptible. "But enough to raise alarms," Victor whispered. "They're here." Through the cameras, shadowy figures moved silently through the forest surrounding the safe house. Keller's network had returned, larger and more coordinated than before. Robert's grip tightened on the metal rod he kept at his side. "This is it. The final storm. It's here." Anna held Ethan close. "We're together. That's what matters." Victor whispered into his headset, "Prepare all traps and defenses. We fight for survival, and we don't back down." The calm before impact, the family took their positions. Robert and Victor at the entrances, ready to defend. Anna by Ethan, holding the file tightly. Ethan hidden, but watching, learning, and ready to act if needed. Outside, the shadows paused, almost as if the enemy was waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Victor whispered, "This is the calm before the storm. The final battle will determine everything: their network, your family, your future." Robert's eyes were steely. "We've survived everything else. We survived this too. Together." Ethan nodded. "Together." Anna's voice was quiet but firm. "Together. No matter what." The storm was coming. Darkness was gathering outside. Shadows moved closer. And inside, a family united, brave, and determined, waited, ready for the fight that would decide their fate once and for all. The night was pitch black, the forest around the safe house silent. Almost inside, the family's hearts pounded like drums, their breaths heavy, and their minds focused. Every creak of the floor, every rustle outside felt amplified. This was it, the moment that would decide everything. Victor whispered, checking the monitors one last time. "They're close. The main force has arrived. Every operative Keller has left, and their leader is with them." Robert gripped the metal rod in his hands. "We've trained for this. We're ready." Anna held Ethan tightly. No matter what happens, we stick together. We survive. Together. Ethan nodded, fear and courage mingling in his eyes. I'm ready, Dad, Victor added. Good, because tonight's survival isn't enough. We fight. And we end this. The enemy strikes suddenly. A loud crash shook the house, the sound of reinforced doors being broken down. Shadows moved quickly around the perimeter. Masked figures advanced with precise coordination, armed and ruthless. Victor shouted, Positions! Defend the house. Robert took the main entrance, swinging the rod with strength and precision. Anna stayed by Ethan, throwing objects and using her wits to block attackers. Victor moved swiftly, taking down intruders with tactical skill. The air was filled with the sounds of struggle, grunts, crashes, shouts, and the metallic clash of improvised weapons. The leader appears amid the chaos. A tall figure emerged, the leader of Keller's network, confident, menacing, and cold. Robert froze. It's him, the mastermind. The leader smirked. Robert, we meet again. You've done well surviving, but your time ends tonight. Robert stepped forward, ready to protect his family. Not tonight. Not ever. The leader lunged. The two clashed. Every movement precise and brutal. Robert's strength, determination, and love for his family fueled his every strike. Anna and Ethan stayed behind, shielding the file. Victor tackled remaining operatives, ensuring the family's path remained clear. The turning point, the battle raged for hours. The safe house trembled under the force of the fight. Ethan, hiding but alert, saw a masked figure sneaking toward the file. Without hesitation, he threw a heavy lamp, hitting the intruder and buying crucial seconds. Robert managed to push the leader against a wall. This ends now, he shouted. The leader laughed coldly. You don't know what's coming. At that moment, Lisa, the former mole, now fully loyal, entered from the shadows. I'm here to finish what I started. For the family, she joined Robert, and together they overpowered the leader, mobilizing him long enough for Victor to secure him and call authorities. Victory and sacrifice, the intruders were subdued, tied up, and left for the police to handle. The family stood together, bruised and exhausted, but victorious. Robert hugged Ethan tightly. We did it. We survived the final storm. Anna held Robert's hand, tears of relief streaming down her face. We're alive, together. Victor looked around, watching carefully. The network is dismantled. Keller is in jail. His allies are captured. You're safe for now. Ethan whispered, We really made it? Robert smiled faintly. Yes, we made it together. Lisa, kneeling beside them, nodded. It wasn't easy, but we protected what matters most, family. A new beginning. The next morning, the family emerged from the safe house into the sunlight. The air was fresh, the city alive, and for the first time in months, hope replaced fear. Robert looked at Ethan. We've survived everything, son. We'll live every day moving forward, together, without fear. Anna added, No more secrets, no more lies.
How?
We protect each other, always. Ethan smiled, a genuine, unburdened smile. Together, always. Victor, watching from the perimeter, spoke quietly. The shadows may linger, but courage, unity, and love always shine brighter. They've won tonight, and they've earned the right to peace, at least for now. Reflections on courage and family as they settled into a calmer life. The family reflected on the trials they had faced, betrayal by someone they trusted, attacks that tested their strength and resilience, the constant threat from a ruthless network determined to destroy them. Through it all, they had learned the value of trust, unity, and courage. They had faced fear, danger, and loss, and had come out stronger, together. Robert looked at his family and whispered, No matter what happens next, we survive as a family. Nothing can break that. Anna kissed Ethan's forehead, and nothing will ever separate us again. Victor, standing at the window, smiled faintly. They faced the storm, and they emerged unbroken. That's true courage. Ethan, finally, able to laugh freely, said, "I never want to be scared like that again." Robert smiled. "You won't be, because we're together. And together we're unstoppable." The final word, the city was calm. The safe house, now peaceful, stood as a symbol of victory, love, and resilience. The family had faced the impossible, endured betrayal, survived attacks, and fought the final showdown. And in the end, they emerged victorious. This was the story of courage, unity, and the strength of family bonds. A story of survival, trust, and the triumph of love over fear. And as the sun rose, casting light on a new day, one thing was certain: no enemy, number storm, no betrayal could ever break the power of a family united.